On behalf of Steel Tech and on my personal behalf, I welcome you all dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, to the City of Joy once again. This is the fourth seminar on ferroalloys with a success which has been done for the last 3 times. We are excited to have this seminar once again, which is fourth in the series of ferroalloys and 17th in the series of Steel Tech to have this seminar on a very contemporary subject, what you see here. So we thank you very much for your support. We are really overwhelmed with your presence, and we thank you very much for that. And when you see here these seminars, we find it is successful because the people like you who attends, the people from industry, people from government agency, people from consultant, people technocrats, and all this. In addition to that, we have also pleasure to have that veterans of the industry like Mr. V.S. Rao. He is come all the way from Hyderabad. He is there to bless us with Professor Roy, and also our own and very active members like Mr. Jayantu Chatterjee, Mr. B.P. Sarkar, and all of you. For this reason, people who are present today, may I want to give you a big round of applause once again. Thank you very much. We know the seminar, or the subject, theme, steel is growing, steel is great to grow. And ferroalloy is very essential for that, and it's a great foreign exchange earner. So therefore, this importance is very much there. Steel is there to grow. We are the second largest, having production around 140. Per capita consumption is around 1/3, little more than 1/3 than the world average. Compared to the previous the person who is the first is China, whose per capita income almost 3 times. That's 646. But that does not matter. That our propensity to grow is very high. So therefore, we have a good future in there. But now the question comes that about the sustainability. Earlier, the people used to have how much more steel or any metal you have produced. Then came concern about the energy. Then they concern about, now people are concerned about, they don't bother how much you have produced, although it is essential required. What process route you are following? Are you polluting the world? Are you polluting the place? Are you giving for the future? For that reason, people are very, very concerned. Everybody, even our child, they ask what is the pollution level. So therefore, it is very important, and people are very, very concerned about it. So therefore, with this, we have designed that seminar in such a way that we follow the event flow. We have the people, the concern raised, what are things being done. As you know, the European Union is going to put CBAM. It is already there, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. So therefore, we have presentation from DNV. We have presentation from industry leaders, what action they are being taken, like Mr. Agarwal and others also. We have people from Ministry, Mr. Ranganathan, and we have people from automation also, what the things are going to do. So series of presentations are there. So without any wasting much time, I know this challenge which is there, we'll also be able to overcome definitely, because India is the fastest growing economy. India is the fastest growing startup ecosystem. India is the fastest growing stock market. India is the fastest growing real estate, and we aim to become a Vishwaguru. We have the leadership, we have the growth, we have the technology, we have the ideas because of our Indian culture, and we are democracy. So therefore, I am sure, we are sure that we are going to overcome this challenge also. So for this, with this reason, we are also this time, if you see the program, we are going to launch a logo for this, and we will open the logo because of the sensitivity of this thing. And if you see, notice one more thing here, that this time we have a special attraction as a final countdown on the second half of the conference. So I am constrained with the time because there are very good speakers. We want to listen to them. We will not want to miss anybody. We would love to give every speaker around half an hour or 45 minutes, but as it is not possible, but they will be covered in their proceedings which we are going to do, but we have to manage the time management, and that applies for me also. So before ending it, may I call upon our Mr. Mukherjee, who is the Chief Security, to give this brief presentation about the security. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Sen. Very good morning to all of you. My name is Shokhin Mukherjee. I'm the head of security for this hotel. I'll just take you 2 minutes to brief you on some basic safety and security related features for this hotel and especially this hall. Firstly, I must mention that the security infrastructure and security processes for this hotel is in compliance with the company ICL security standards, wherein we maintain a triple layer security checking system, wherein the first layer is the gates, wherein we do a vehicle checking as per standard process, and the second layer is the porch, main porch and banquet porch, wherein we do screening of the belongings that are coming to the incomers with help of DFMDs and baggage scanners. The third layer is the elevator access control for the guests, wherein we ensure that only the authorized people only reach to the guest staying floors. So as far as this fire safety is concerned, I must mention that this hotel is built in compliance with the state fire norms, and we have duly obtained NOC for that. Coming to this hall, I will mention that this hall has got enough amount of your compliant amount of fire detection and protection system in terms of installations like smoke detectors and sprinklers, etc. You can see there are two fire exits on my right side, and there are two fire exits on my left side. All of these fire exits take you to the safe assembly area at the banquet porch. The smoking area happens to be the banquet porch only for you. And just to mention that we have a trained team of emergency handling members in case of an emergency. Please do not be panicked. We are there for your assistance. I wish you have a safe and nice time in this hotel and this hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee. We are in safe hands. As I was mentioning, that we are constrained with the time. Don't worry, we'll cover everything. What presentations people will have, we'll cover in the proceedings and also in the videos. But due to time management, it's a time management for me also. For the people who are speaking, I'll give a buzzer after, they asked me to conduct the seminar, so I'll give a buzzer to myself also, if it's 2 minutes before, so please bear with me. With this, may I now request to now the time for launch logo, may I now request to put the audio visual, please. Thank you. Thank you. As I mentioned, like we are following the time very essentially. That's the reason no lighting of lamp and all. So now I have the pleasure to call upon Mr. D.B. Sundararaman, who is not only the Vice President of Tata Steel Raw Materials, but also he is our Chairman of this core committee. May I now request Mr. Sundaram, without giving it's a very illustrated thing. I'm not reading out the biodata. I request him to give a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pritesh Sen. Good morning, everybody. Rao Sahab, Mr. Sarkar, Mr. Chatterjee, all the industry experts from ferroalloys and steel, my colleagues present and former colleagues from Tata Steel. It's always a challenge because we say that getting to net zero is a challenge, but for the speakers like me, who is not an expert on the subject, but you need to deliver a keynote address to the experts, that is also a bigger challenge. So I would see how can I overcome this challenge. As mentioned by Mr. Sen, I think it is appropriate for some of us who represent the industry to share our initiatives which we are doing, so that what is the contribution we have to get to net zero. Though Government of India has mentioned 2070 for net zero, but let me tell you, and many of the companies and countries, even some of the developed countries, as well as some of the steel industries and many industries who are in these developed countries, they have mentioned 2060, 2050 as the target for net zero. But Tata Group has taken a mammoth target, 2045. Entire Tata Group needs to go to net zero by 2045. That's, I think, a major challenge we have at hand. So as all of us know, that today we are at crossroads. There is a dichotomy also in the entire system. In the sense, developing countries like India, we are looking for 300 million tons of steel production. And the other day, I was attending Atmanirbhar Bharat, and how do we reduce our coal imports, how do we, both thermal as well as metallurgical coal, and how do we become self-sufficient. So in that, definitely the carbon footprint would be there when we say that we would like to produce more from our Indian sources. At the same time, how do we make all these things in a sustainable manner? So if you see the steel industry per se, including ferroalloys, I think it's almost the contribution to carbon emission is 10%. I'm told if it is a country, then it is going to be the 5th largest country to emit carbon. So that is the intensity, and that is a challenge which steel industry along with ferroalloys industries we are facing. Apart from that, as I mentioned, these industries, most of these industries are dependent on fossil fuel. Just I was reading one article where it was mentioned that after Paris Agreement, when they were looking at some of the fossil fuel as well as oil majors who emit carbon, though we take pride that Coal India is one of the biggest coal producers, single largest coal producer in the world, but it is also the 3rd largest carbon emitter in the world with 3% contribution. The first being Saudi Aramco, which is 4.8%, and Coal India being 3%, 3rd biggest single entity. And we are all, most of us are dependent on, most of the industries are dependent on Coal India for our power needs and all. So in a way, we are also looking for the growth. At the same time, we are also looking at the sustainability and how do we have sustainability initiatives. So we know the adverse effects which the carbon emission and also the way the green cover is going down day by day. We have seen that video also, how the trees are being cut, how there are, because of this global warming, we also seen forest fires across. So the world is going through a phase where we need to balance between the growth of developing countries as well as the sustainable initiatives which everyone has to take. So it is told that already the GHG emissions, because of the GHG emissions in the last 100 years, the temperature has gone by 1 degree. And the way the growth is happening, the temperatures are going to go up by almost 2 to 5 degrees in next 100 years. So, and we always say that we are just like tenants on this earth, and whatever has been given to us, we need to make it better and give it to our next generation. So all our efforts should be in that direction. So I'm very happy that an apt message and apt seminar is being conducted now, saying that how does steel industry along with ferroalloys become net zero, and what are the initiatives we need to take to become net zero. So this has been discussed in COP Conference of Parties 26, which happened in Paris, 27, which happened in Egypt, and 28, which happened recently in Dubai. And there have been many agreements among the countries that how do we as a whole world reduce carbon emissions and come to net zero. Though there have been some differences, definitely, but still, end of the day, all the countries put together, they are on a common consensus saying that yes, we need to reduce carbon emission, and that is need of our for making our future generations prosper. So in 2028 in Dubai, the world decided to transition away from fossil fuels. So when I talked about fossil fuels, as I mentioned, there is a dichotomy. Ministry of Coal has, Government of India has openly declared that our production, because we need to cater to our needs, where our power, even today also there are many villages where we don't have the electricity. So our coal production is going to be 1.5 billion tons by 2035. Already we touched 1 billion this year. I'm told we are touching 1 billion, and Coal India is also almost it touched 900 million tons. So rest of the companies put together, including NTPC and all, it's going to be more than 1 billion tons. And our target is 1.5 billion tons by 2035, but the way we are progressing, I think it is going to be before that also. After that, there would be reduction in coal production, fossil fuel production. So that is going to help the reduction in carbon. So at the same time, it has been told by one of the senators in US that if you want to see the world, if you want to see the future, go and visit India. When you visit India, you will see that the future is very bright from growth point of view. The way even Mr. Pritishan also mentioned, if you want to see the growth, then come to India, because as it was mentioned that late 90s to early 2000 and even 2010, the growth has been from China. We have seen how China has developed in last 20-25 years. Now everyone is looking towards India. So at the same time, as I mentioned, we need to see how do we grow that to in a sustainable manner. So I would just like to share some of the initiatives which Tata Steel has taken of late. And the way I mentioned, today there may not be much, you can say, sensitization around the communities in India, the way we see them in Europe and elsewhere in America and all. Because we have a plant in Amudin, Netherlands. It is the world benchmark. I'm talking about blast furnace. It's not any other EAF. When you compare the blast furnaces, world benchmark in carbon emission. But still it is facing a lot of criticism from the community, saying that still it is higher, whatever the carbon emission it does. So you can imagine in India, where I think the average is more than, if we put entire steel industry, it is more than 2.5 to 2.6 tons of carbon emission per ton of crude steel. So even Tata Steel, our existing plants, we are at the rate of 2.3 tons of carbon, but the plants we recently acquired, whether it's NINL or it's TSBSL or it is as well Usha Martin, Gamaria plant and all, if I combine all these things, we are almost touching 2.5. Our target is to reach less than 2 as a first step and touch 1.8 tons of carbon per ton of crude steel by 2030. So at the same time, Tata Steel is also, as I mentioned, when Government of India has made a plan of 300 million tons under National Steel Policy, Tata Steel has also made a plan of reaching 40 million tons during that period. So we have to reach 40 million tons. At the same time, we need to see how do we reduce the carbon emissions, which today we are doing. So the some of the already initiatives which we have taken. Earlier, I think around 3 to 4 years back, we were maybe using 3 to 5% scrap in our steel melting shops. We have now moved from almost touching double digits across all our plants. So that is one major initiatives we have taken, using more of scrap. And also increasing the scrap usage out of this 40 million tons, we have planned to have 4.75 million ton capacity electric arc furnaces across all the 4 corners of India, north, east, west as well as south. So already the job has started in our northern part of India. In Ludhiana, we are putting up that facility. Apart from that, we have got scrap collection facilities in some other places where we are in organized way. How do you collect scrap and use scrap in our plants? Renewable energy is a major challenge for us, because I said when we talk about power, if the power is from fossil fuel, then it is not, we are not getting into net zero. So along with Tata Power, we have an agreement to have 379 megawatt power, and by 25 December, I think most of our ferro alloy plants are going to run with renewable energy that is being supplied by Tata Power. So that is going to be a major achievement for us. We are starting with Jajpur plant today, which is 100,000 capacity. and extending the same to Bamnipal, Attagad, because if you see today we are operating Gopalpur ferrochrome plant. In Balasore we are operating silico-manganese alloys plant. In Joda we have 50,000 capacity, we are putting up another plant. Jaspur, as I mentioned, 100,000, which is going to 150,000. Bamnipal, which is a closed furnace with 50,000 capacity. Attagad we have 50,000 capacity, which is also a semi furnace. So all these we are planning to move with the help of renewable energy. Not only that, in all our raw material locations. Just to tell you, the first in mining industry, to best of my knowledge, 3 megawatt solar power plant we installed in Novamundi. So now our target is to reach to 60 megawatt power across all our locations. Wherever we have space in our raw material locations, either we are putting plants and we are trying to restore the forestry, or we put up solar power plants. So this is our endeavor to become, and also to reduce our carbon footprint as well as far as power is concerned. So hydrogen and hydrogen bearer gas injection has been done in blast furnaces in Tata Steel, and both we are using natural gas as well as coal bed methane for that. And we are also moved to biochar, because we are getting biochar from western part of India, and we wanted to use at least replace 10% of coal with biochar. Not only that, on experiment basis we have involved the communities in and around Jamadoba to make the plants, so that we'll support them, they will give us land, and we will have plants there, so that we can make biochar out of that. That experiment is also going on, and we have got good response from the communities in and around Jamadoba. Apart from that, upscaling the carbon capture, utilization and storage. So just to give an example, we have suspended operations of 3 of our underground mines in Jamadoba. In Jamadoba group we have 3 mines, we have suspended operations of those mines, but still we have not surrendered the mines, because we have seen that our operations were till 600 meters from the surface, which are the deepest underground mines as far as coal is concerned in India. But now we are seeing how do we use the 600 meters, because it's 1200 meters if you see the coal seams from 17 to 1. So how do we use that virgin 600 meters coal which is there? So with the help of government, with the help of IIT Mumbai, we are trying to work on both coal bed methane as well as carbon utilization and usage as well as storage. So these 2 projects we are working. If we are successful, then maybe the 100 years, for the last 115 years we are working on these underground mines, we are continue to work for another 100 years because of the new technology. This is one of our endeavors. And also, as I mentioned, piloting the biomass-based fuel in ferroalloy manufacturing. That already we started that. We have started replacing our general fuel oil which we use, and we see some success there also. And most of these initiatives in bits and pieces we are taking, but at the same time we are counting how much carbon we are going to reduce. Even some of our, when we discuss our production planning and all, we also ask some of our people that what is the initiative you are taking to reduce carbon. So I was just asking one of my logistics guy, what are the initiatives you have taken? So he said, we have started multi-modal transportation. We have got our ferrochrome. We are transporting ferrochrome from eastern part of India to western part of India through vessels. So that is one, it's not through road or rail, that is one we are doing. Second, from eastern part of India to Vizag, we are taking the help of vessels, and we are doing that. So these are some of the initiatives which are going to reduce carbon. May not be to the large extent, but at least we would like entire organization in Tata Steel to be sensitized towards this, and even small steps. The way we see the supervisory vehicles which we have across all our mines, they are all now electric vehicles. Now we are in touch with Tata Motors, Volvo and all. We operate many trucks, maybe 1,000, 2,000 trucks every day enter our premises and take materials, coal, iron ore, and ferrochrome and chrome. How do we make them either LNG based or CNG based? So we are in touch with Tata Motors, Volvo and all. So these are some of the initiatives Tata Steel is doing, and we are pretty confident that the goal we have to reach 2045 is going to be, the dream is going to be fulfilled. With this, I wish the conference a success, and also I appreciate the topic which has been taken and taken by the organizers. I think it's very apt, and also it is needed at this moment of time. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Sundaramamu. for giving such a lovely speech. It is 2070, that is the one which is assuring for the India also you are doing in 2045, and the initiative you have taken for Tata Power. May I request you to Arnab to give a memento to Mr. Sundar Raman, please. ওইখানে নিচেই দিয়ে দাও না। Thank you once again. Now I have the pleasure to call upon Mr. Deepak Agarwal. He is the chairman cum managing director of Sakambari Group of Industries. It's a very big biodata. I am not going to read it, but they have also taken initiative like the Tata Steel is going to be taking is the first Green Pro certificate for the integrated steel plant. So I request you to give a speech, sir. Thank you. A big round of applause for him.
नमस्कार। स्टील टेक के 4th सेमिनार में मेरे को आज आपके सामने कुछ बोलने का अवसर मिला। इसके लिए मैं अपने आप को गौरवान्वित महसूस करता हूं और स्टील टेक की टीम को धन्यवाद देता हूं। यहाँ जितने भी लोग बैठे हुए हैं बहुत ही लर्नेड लोग हैं, और अभी टाटा स्टील की तरफ से बीपी सुब्रमण्यम साहब ने मुझे बताया तो काफ़ी अच्छा बताया इन्होंने, और मेरे को ग्रीन के बारे में यहाँ पे आने से बहुत कुछ पता चला। और मैं टाटा स्टील को धन्यवाद देता हूँ कि इन्होंने बताया ही नहीं बल्कि मेल्टिंग का जो कंजम्पशन है उन्होंने हाई कर दिया। इससे मार्केट में एक अवेयरनेस भी आई है कि टाटा स्टील जो है ग्रीन एनर्जी के बारे में बहुत ज़्यादा सोच रहे हैं और कदम उठा रहे हैं। जहाँ अभी स्टील का प्रोडक्शन अपने देश में 130 मिलियन टन है और जिसको बढ़ा के 300 मिलियन टन करना है, इसमें बहुत सी चैलेंजेज हैं। ये चैलेंजेज है कार्बन इमिशन को लेकर। स्टील के अंदर में जहाँ स्टील का उत्पादन होगा कार्बन इमिशन बढ़ेगा, लेकिन इसको हम लोग कैसे कम कर सकते हैं, इसमें हम लोग को सोचना है। जो कि हम लोग सोलर पावर, हाइड्रो पावर, ये सब के माध्यम से हम लोग इसको कम कर सकते हैं। विंड पावर, बायोमास, जियोथर्मल एंड टाइडल एनर्जी। बट ये कितना वाइबल होगा स्टील के लिए, कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन में भी हमको देखना पड़ेगा कि कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन के लिए कितना वाइबल होगा। अदरवाइज ये गवर्नमेंट को चाहिए कि हमें एक उचित रेट में सीवीएम गैस उपलब्ध करवाए तो कि हम इसको यूज़ कर सकें। कि छोटी इंडस्ट्री के सामने ये सब चैलेंजेज हैं, क्योंकि जितनी भी छोटे प्लांट है वो सब एक कन्वर्सन यूनिट है। अगर कोल को यूज़ ना करें तो सीवीएम गैस अगर मिले तो इमिशन को कम किया जा सकता है। हम लोग अपने प्लांट के अंदर में कार्बन इमिशन को कम करने के लिए मेल्टिंग को बढ़ा सकते हैं, सोलर पावर यूज़ कर सकते हैं, सीवीएम गैस यूज़ कर सकते हैं, प्लांटेशन लगा सकते हैं, और पॉल्यूशन सिस्टम जो एफिशिएंट है उसको और एफिशिएंट बना सकते हैं। और इसके अलावा गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से जो भी सुझाव आएंगे उसको हम लोगों को करना है। अदरवाइज़ जो आने वाली जनरेशन है उसको एक प्रॉब्लम हम लोग दे के जाएंगे, क्योंकि एक तरफ स्टील का प्रोडक्शन बढ़ाना और एक तरफ इमिशन को बढ़ाना ये उचित नहीं होगा। हमें ये देखना पड़ेगा कि डेवलपमेंट भी हो और इमिशन भी कैसे कम हो। इसके लिए हम लोगों को कदम उठाने पड़ेंगे। आज जो छोटी छोटी इंडस्ट्री मल्टी लोकेशन में है उनको अगर सिंगल लोकेशन के अंदर में एक जगह हम लोग गवर्नमेंट दे दे और वो इंडस्ट्री एक सिंगल प्लेस में आ जाए तो आज डीजल ट्रांसपोर्टेशन से डीजल से जो इमिशंस वगैरह होते हैं उसको भी बहुत हद तक कंट्रोल किया जा सकता है। कुछ ऑटोमेटिक सिस्टम लगा के इमिशन को भी कम किया जा सकता है। तो ये गवर्नमेंट को जो है मीडियम स्केल इंडस्ट्री की डिफ़िकल्टीज़ को समझना पड़ेगा, जिससे कि यहाँ से भी पोल्यूशन को कम किया जा सकता है। मैं और ज़्यादा समय नहीं लूँगा, आप लोगों ने मेरी बात को ध्यान से सुना, इसके लिए मैं आपको तहे दिल से धन्यवाद देता हूँ। नमस्कार।
Thank you, Mr. Agarwal. May I now request Mr. VP Sarkar to honor him with a small memento, please. A big round of applause. Thank you very much, Agarwal Sahab, for giving the initiative what you are taking, perspective, what the actions you are being taken. Now we have to call upon another industry expert, Mr. Sanjay Kumar Agrawal, Joint Managing Director of Sand Metallics and Energy Limited. I'm not reading out his biodata. I request Mr. Sanjay Agarwal to give his views what are the things being taken, please. Thank you very much. A big round of applause.
Thank you, Mr. Sen, for referring me as an industry expert. I am honored. I'm in front of very learned people, and to express my views, I know it's a drop in the ocean, but I would like to share what I have learned and what can we do in ferroalloy industry to make it net zero or maybe a better what we are doing now. Well, we all talk about steel. Steel is a key pillar for in any country for their growth, and the way India is growing, steel will play a major role. We are talking about 3 million ton production from 142 at the moment. And ferroalloy, of course, will have to play a very important role along with steel to get its footprint net zero. Now, we have a major challenges in India for the ferroalloys. Our furnaces are small. We have a limited availability of ore. We are majorly dependent on imported ore. Our chrome ore reserves are depleting. They are going underground. We have a heavy power cost, heavy reliance on carbon-based fuel, an extremely competitive market we are in. So, what can we do in the present scenario? We cannot lose hope. We have to think out of the box. And what I think can be done, first of all, we have to beneficiate the ore which we have in the country. Unnecessary giving the gang material in the furnace, absorb more power, more reductant, which is unnecessary. And not to forget, we also end up paying the logistic on that extra gang material. So I would request all the mining companies to enrich their ore at the mining point and then start supplying. This will, I think we can reduce the power consumption, if not less, by 5%. Second is, we have an example in the world where people are sintering their ore and also using hot sinter in the furnaces. When we sinter our ore, it's partly reduced. The fines are converted into agglomerates. And when the hot sinter is fed inside the furnaces, we can reduce minimum 20% power. We have a live example happening in South Africa, what we can think at the country. Apart from this, we all know we can arrest the gases, we can put it to use to pre-reduce or heat or reduce the moisture in our raw material. Another important point which I would like to see, India has got a lot of thermal coal, non-coking coal. Right now, in ferroalloys, we are using coking coal or a coke made out of coking coal, mostly which is imported. Again, when we import, we pay on the logistics in the country where it is mined. Then we have a sea freight and then the inland logistic. We should look a way out where we can use this non-coking coal carbon to reduce ferroalloys. This, of course, can be achieved with, again, a beneficiation because we have a very high ash content in the country. Then we have to follow the example like Dankuni Coal Complex is doing. They are making a coke out of non-coking coal, and we have to try to use it. If not 100%, I'm sure we can substitute it with by 30–40%. Another thing what can be done, though it's very high capital intensive, the DC furnaces we all know. It gives an improvement in power consumption. We can use fines. It's a closed furnace. We can use gases for power generation, and it goes on and on. But everything said and done, it requires huge investment. The growth comes with development, and development comes with the impact on the environment. So how can we make the economics and sustainability? That is the question in front of us right now. So the times call for investment in the bigger furnaces, but again, the time is not conducive to invest in ferroalloys. So we have to balance what can be done in phase 1 and what can be done in phase 2. I would request the government to evaluate and encourage the mushrooming of smaller furnaces in the country. I would request them to evaluate and encourage a bigger furnaces where we can use those gases coming out for power cogeneration, for better put to use. All governments, I would request to work in tandem towards helping the industry to achieve carbon net zero. I would like in solar, though we have invested, we request them for 100% banking. Though I understand that there will be a compromise on the economic interest, but yes, we obviously will attract a lot of investment in solar, what is done now. Coming back to Shyam Metallics, what we are doing, like we are quite improvised, what Tata Steel is doing, as Mr. Sundaraman has said. So every logistics has to be electric. It's not a part of a company or a huge investment which requires to achieve net zero. It starts from me, or it starts from anybody who is our stakeholder. A small initiative from switching off the lights when I'm not in the room to a bigger investments contribute to the carbon net zero. So we are investing heavily in solar. We have already declared we are over 50 megawatt is our investment plan for solar. Of course, we are trying to tap all the energies, all the gases coming out of ferroalloys. We are exploring the possibility how to put to use. We also have a smaller furnaces. We know we cannot generate power, but yes, we have a temperature and a low pressure which can use to at least heat up the raw material, thereby reducing the specific consumption. We are looking to center all our fines. We don't want the fines to go into the furnace because it again consumes more power and more reductant. Apart from this, we are trying to integrate our steel production with the liquid ferroalloy coming out of the furnace to take advantage of the heat rather than cooling and then breaking and then again reusing it. We are trying to synchronize our steel production with liquid ferroalloy production. Apart from this, of course, DRI, we have a major production of DRI, so we tap all the heats coming out of DRI, we generate power, and then we use it to ferroalloy production again. I think as far as biochar is concerned, I think we are in the rice belt. We are also looking to utilize as much as possible. We are trying to make it economical. And we also have pledged ourselves to be a zero carbon footprint by 2050. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Just wait for a few minutes. I request Mr. Sarkar to give the honor. Thank you very much. Now have a pleasure to welcome Anjana Sharma. She is the Business Head Sustainability Services DNV. She is an expert on the CBAM, what people are mentioning about. So we'd like to hear from horse's mouth that what is the future and what is going on. A big round of applause for Anjana, please.
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everyone. So I'm representing company called DNV. Since morning, I was listening to everyone talking about the initiatives the companies are taking and how every steel industry or the ferroalloy industry is working towards reducing their emissions. I represent a company who is on the other side, which means that we are helping the companies to guide them where are the initiatives, what initiatives they can take, and supporting them on implementing those initiatives. So this is what my company does. Is this? So we are working very closely with Tata Steel as well on their green journey towards their, I would say, greening their product. And we are working on their carbon reducing projects as well, providing them the validation services and also verifying the emissions generated by the carbon reduction projects. So this is what we are doing, and in today's, the topic that has been given to me is what is coming next, where the industries have to focus, and what are the regulations which are going to impact their production. So since morning, what I heard is everyone is talking about the growth and development. So what I want to say based on my experience in this industry is that the term development is now changed to sustainable development. So we are not looking at the development in present. We are looking at the development in future without impacting the future of our children. So that's where the industries have to work. So the definition is not development, it is the sustainable development where we are looking towards the future. So in today's topic, without spending much time, I will be focusing what is CBAM, what is CBAM regulation, and what are the industry sectors covered under CBAM, and which are the emissions covered under CBAM, what is the geographical area covered under these regulations, and what are the timelines that industries have to keep in mind, and how will the CBAM work for the EU importers as well as the exporters from outside EU, for example, India. And what the industries have to focus, where the industries have to focus during the transitional phase and after the transitional phase, and what action the business operators like in countries like India can take, and how to prepare for the CBAM reporting. So these are the topics that I will be covering in today's discussion. CBAM is nothing. What EU has done is they have done all the development in the previous years, but now they don't want to change their operations. They are just passing it to the other countries so that the emissions within their country remains under control. So EU's cross-border adjustment mechanism is another mechanism that has been declared by the EU Commission to prevent the carbon leakage. Now, this term is very technical. When I say the carbon leakage, it means that the emissions not only from their operations, but from the products they are getting from outside. They may be products for the, I would say, producers in India, but they are the raw material for their operations in their countries. So they want to reduce the leakage, carbon leakage from these products that are coming into their country. So as I mentioned, the EU, they have raised their, I would say, climate ambition, but they can't do much in their country, so they are putting the restrictions on the products that are coming into their country. So CBAM is a measure to ensure that the imported goods pay a price for their carbon emissions that is comparable to the price paid by the EU domestic producers under the EU ETS scheme. So how they are doing it? The main aim of the CBAM regulation is to reduce the risk of the carbon leakage by encouraging the producers in non-EU countries to green their production process. So while India has taken the target of net zero by 2070 and all our industry sectors are focusing on reducing their carbon emissions, this is another regulation which is forcing our industries in India to reduce their carbon emissions. So if you are importing, I'm sure most of our industries are exporting their product to EU. Now, if you are exporting your product to EU, you have to be very careful in terms of carbon emissions. At one place, you are meeting your India target. At the same place, you have to meet your business targets as well. So it is very important to reduce your emissions when you are producing your product. Now, CBAM initially, during the transitional phase, they have selected few sectors for reducing the emissions, and some of these sectors are cement industry sector, iron and steel industry, which is very relevant to you because you all come from the same industry. Then aluminium industry is another industry which is impacted by the CBAM regulation. Then hydrogen industry, fertilizer industry, and electricity generation. So these are the sectors which have been selected initially during the transitional phase. So some of the examples I have taken from the aluminium sector. The products are categorized based on the CN code. So EU regulation has declared the CN codes, and if your product has that CN code and you are exporting to Europe, then the CBAM regulation applies to you. So these are some of the CN codes for aluminium industry. Similarly, for iron and steel industry, there are CN codes declared by EU Commission. Now, which emissions you have to consider? Now, you are producing in India, and what CBAM is asking. So which emissions you have to cover? So under CBAM, if you see the blue color, that is not covered under the CBAM scope. You are a producer in India, only the orange part is applicable to your operations. Now when I say orange part, you have your scope 1 emissions, which are your direct emissions from your operations. Then you have your scope 2 emissions, which is electricity consumed for production of your CBAM goods. Now, I underline the word CBAM goods. You may be producing so many other products, but when I use the term CBAM goods, it is related to those products for whose CN code numbers are considered by the EU regulation. So please ensure that all these emissions, they are asking for CBAM goods only. Now, third category of emissions they are covering is the scope 3 emissions, input material that is coming to your operations. So these are the categories they are considering, type of emissions they are considering under the CBAM disclosures. Now, which geographical areas are impacted by the CBAM regulation? Now, CBAM is a regulation of EU, so it impacts the imports from all the countries across the globe. Whether you are importing from America, it is impacting LATAM or South America, India, Asia, everywhere it is impacting. So if you are producing your product anywhere outside EU, then the CBAM regulation is applicable to you. Except there is an exception. There is an exception for the countries that apply the EU ETS scheme. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of EU ETS scheme. They have their regional, or I would say scheme applicable only in the Europe. And if your country is having that scheme or operating as per that scheme, then this is an exception for you. Now this is very important, the timeline of the CBAM. Now CBAM regulation is already here, and what the industries should know is the timeline. We are already in the transition phase of this regulation, which means that the reporting has already started. So it started from 1st of October, and the first reporting, the quarterly reporting was done on 31st January 2024. Now the transitional period is up to 2025 December. So which means that during the transitional period, every quarter you have to report on your emissions and also the amount of quantity of the goods you are exporting to Europe. So this is the timeline for CBAM. So we are already in the transition phase till 1st of January, I would say 31st December 2025. The companies are already in the transition phase, and after that the CBAM regulation will be fully operational. So we will get into the details what it means by fully operational. So please take note of this transitional period. You are already required to report on your emissions to your importers. You don't have to directly report to EU. It is your importers who will be asking you all this information. So the first quarterly reporting is already done. Now how it will work? So if you are producer in a country, you will be called a operator or the installation. Now all the companies producing the CBAM goods in India will fall into the first category, that is the operator and the installation. Okay. Now then comes the authorized declarant, who is the party in Europe. They are authorized by EU Commission that they have to report on the amount of goods they have imported from other countries and their emissions. And then the CBAM report is prepared by the authorized declarant only, who is the European entity, and they report it to the EU Commission. So your job will only to provide the emissions of your product to the authorized declarant. This is during the transitional phase. Now once the transitional phase is over, that is from 1st January 2026, the process remains the same, more or less remains the same, but the additional requirement is of the accredited verifier, which means that when you are disclosing your carbon emissions, they have to be verified by the third party. So we are third party verifiers, and we have already started working with the companies to verify, to prepare them for the reporting under the CBAM regulations. So from 2026 onwards, this verification, independent verification by the third party verifiers will be very important, and DNV is one of the accredited verifiers for CBAM verifications. This is on the how it will work. Now here I have listed, now from 2023 onwards, from the 1st October, the reporting has already started, and after that, if you see the reporting every quarter, the reporting is happening till 31st December 2025. After 31st December 2025, there will be a penalty on the exporters who are not disclosing on the carbon emissions. So this is what you have to report, or maybe your importers will ask you. They will ask you on the total quantity of the goods imported. They will ask you from which country, and they will also ask you about the verification of your emissions. Then if you have the carbon price reduction or carbon price due, then the total embedded emissions and the location of the installation. So this is the information they will be asking you whenever you are exporting your product to your importer. How to prepare for an EU importer? Now what all you need when your EU importer asks you for the information, what all you need, what are the goods, which are the CBAM goods you are exporting to Europe, and what is the reporting period. For example, you are reporting for a quarter, so how much good you have exported to that importer. And all the parameters, for example, how many emissions, what are the scope 1 emissions, what are the scope 2 emissions in production of that product. Now when I say it is called the product carbon footprint of that product, then if there is any carbon pricing applicable in your country, and if there are any other actions that you have taken to reduce your emissions, so all this information they will be asking you from 2026 onwards. So what the industries can start doing is they can start collecting the information in the similar way during the transitional period only, so that they don't have the challenge after this period is over. Again, as I mentioned, this is what the EU, non-EU operators, for example, in India, we are the non-EU operators. You are operating outside EU. So this is all the information you have to collect for your product, CBAM goods. And this is how it will flow. For example, you are producing the products non-EU country, so you are producing the products and you are also providing all this information to your importer, and then they will check the custom data also, how much good you have exported to that importer. So they will collect all the information from the custom authorities, fill in the information for the CBAM reporting, and finally reports it to the EU Commission. Now, when that reporting is happen, all this is will be happening from 2026 onwards. Information they have already started collecting on this during the transitional phase, but after the transitional phase, if you don't provide this information to them, I think there is a penalty that they will be imposing on every ton of product that you are exporting to them. So this is the new regulation that has come up, and it is going to impact every industry in India which is falling into these sectors, and we are working very closely with all the industries to help them what actions they have to take to meet the requirements of this CBAM regulation. So I'm sure most of the companies or the representatives here are already working on this direction. It is just that it has to be aligned as per the new regulation that is coming up. Thank you so much. So I'm open for any questions if you have on this regard. Yeah. No, penalty figure has not been declared yet. So I think it will come because it will be applicable from the 2026 onwards. So what I understood is I think up to 55 euros they are charging. I mean, this is just a number. I don't have the official number right now. Yeah. So, but penalty will be there. So you either, if you have the, for example, you have taken the reduction measures. So maybe like in EU ETS, you have the certificates available. Now, if you are falling short of your target or you are not meeting that target, then you can buy the certificates and declare that. That can be done. So I won't say, yes, carbon, its mechanism will be more or less similar, but the carbon credits is a separate mechanism and this will be a separate mechanism, sir. Carbon credit is not applicable, sir. I mean, it is up to you. If you want to develop a project where you are reducing the carbon emissions, you can develop it as a carbon credit project. For example, we are working with Tata Steel. So they have some initiatives taken within their organization and they want to develop it as a carbon credit project. Yeah. So those credits can be sold in outside market as well. And I'm happy to share that I think Indian government is also coming up with the Indian carbon market, where they are coming up with the targets for the industries. I mean, iron and steel industry, I think that will be one of the industry which will get the targets in the lines of same PAT scheme. So instead of PAT scheme, you have the carbon credit scheme now in the Indian carbon market. So again, you will have the targets from Indian carbon market. Yeah. Yes. Yes. I won't say that you have to reduce, this is my personal opinion, you don't have to reduce your exports to Europe. It is just that you have to start taking the actions now so that you can bring down your emissions. I again take example of Tata Steel. They are taking lot of initiatives. For example, they are helping restore the mangroves also. Now, when you restore the mangroves, those emissions can be used to bring down your emissions from the industry. So that is how you can offset your emissions and you can provide the lesser intensity of your product to the importer.
So
Yes,
just
sir.
I would like to give an example, Sarkar Sahab. Today what we are doing, whatever project we take, new project, it is going to increase carbon emission. So we are also calculating carbon IRR, not only normal IRR, For each ton, you have a penalty of $40. But taking Q from her, now I think we should discuss internally and make it 55 euros so that it will be at par. So
Absolutely.
though we may not be doing entire
Absolutely.
exports to Europe, but we can say that if I have a target of 10% exports, that 10% should be valued and have penalty of 55 euros.
55
Rest
euros.
everything can be $40.
Correct,
So
correct.
then we see carbon IRR, and then maybe everyone can do that.
Absolutely.
Then you will get with some other ideas. If my carbon is increasing, what do I do so that I can reduce and become less than 40? So if I have to invest $20 and save $40 penalty, then I will come with new ideas. I think if not today, tomorrow everyone has to fall in line with a small company or big company.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now for the smaller companies, what we are suggesting is, it is very important. Now we are in the transitional phase, sir. You still have time, another 1 year or 1.5 years. The first step that any industry has to take is to start mapping their emissions. So many smaller companies have not even mapped the emissions. I was talking to Indian Machine Tools, all MSME industries. So they are falling under the BRSR requirement now, and they are also exporting to, they are small component part manufacturers, and they are exporting their small components to Europe. Yeah. CCUS, carbon capture. See, sir, under carbon capture also, there is two things. One is you are just capturing it. That will not make a difference. You have to either capture it and then utilize it. So, so if capture and utilization is happening, then that is a carbon credit project, I would say, and you can use those carbon credit to offset your emissions. So, you are doing that, sir.
Okay. Can I ask something?
Yes, sir.
So, this regulation, do you think it will hasten the carbon neutrality
Who-
target date for Indian companies?
Sorry,
To-
come again?
For the Indian companies, this regulation will, hasten the carbon neutral transition date. See, we are now looking for 2070, but if you have to export to Europe, then probably you have to make it by 2040 or 2030. Do you think so?
It will depend how fast we implement that.
But we'll be at a loss, if we cannot implement it, and then we have to compete with the others who are implementing it.
So I am sure you must have seen the news that our Indian government is already opposing this CBAM regulation. So they have not yet accepted that, and they have even taken it to the WTO also to argue or maybe present their case, because it is like reducing our production here. So, and you, even if you produce or you continue with the same production, you are not able to sell it. So, which means that ultimately it is impacting the business in India. So, that's why they have taken it to the higher authorities, and they have even taken it up with the EU Commission also. They are not accepting it. So that is, and another thing, sir, just wanted to, one point, sir. So carbon neutral is one thing, and net zero is one thing. So carbon neutral you can become in 1 or 2 years also. So carbon neutral is nothing, you are still emitting, but you are neutralizing it. But net zero is a bigger thing. So companies can start with the carbon neutral journey and they can reach to net zero, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, ma'am, we are already declaring our scope 1 and scope 2 emissions while exporting to Europe. Now I just want to know, if I want to get it certified, do I have to do it from a company situated in Europe,
No.
or can it be done from?
Okay, so on the certification or verification part, as of now, EU Commission is considering all the entities who are approved under EU ETS, but the verification is not an immediate requirement. It will start from 2026. But voluntarily, if you want to have the confidence in your disclosures, you can have it right now.
Then any company situated in India can do so?
We are doing, sir.
Okay.
We are doing. So we are verifying also, and in fact, we are helping the companies on the CBAM, in their journey towards CBAM disclosures as well.
Thank you, Anjana. You have
Thank
created, you have a client here. I mean, the whom to contact for, for the
I mean, it's
CBAM.
not a business,
So very
but,
essential. So thank you very much for coming all the way. May I request Chairman of Core Committee, Mr. Sundaramam, to honor Anjana with a small memento for this honor also.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are on time. When people got scared of me or somebody, I do not know, because every time Mr. Sarkar used to give me idea, you have to be on time management. So this time we have put it. Now may I call upon Mr. Sri Vishnu Kanta. He is the Deputy Director General of Foreign Trade. A big round of applause for him, please, because we want to hear that side, because the people are going to export, he is the one which is giving it. Please, sir, your time.
A warm good morning to all of you present here. I would thank the Steel Tech Managing Committee to give me a platform to present my views on India's preparedness for export concerning the emerging issues in foreign trade, which my previous speakers have spoken about. Basically, those are sustainability, environment issues, labor issues, gender, fair globalization. And I would like to point out that India's stand has always been, and in fact all the developing world's stand has been common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities in dealing with climate change. So all these issues, but we have common but differentiated responsibilities. We are all at different stages of development. So based on that, we have differentiated responsibilities, and we all have respective capabilities. Going further, so CVAMP, as the madam has previous speaker has spoken about, to prevent this is one of the fallouts of the issues which are being emerging issues which are there in the foreign trade. So to prevent the EU on their legislations to prevent the carbon leakage. In certain sectors, they have implemented this carbon border adjustment mechanism. There are all timelines, everything is there. They have the phase 1 and phase 2. So these are the timelines. So it is the EU, the European Union's way to policy measure that aims to fairly price the carbon emissions that are generated during this production of certain goods imported into the EU. So it wants to encourage the cleaner production in the non-EU countries. Basically, all the imports that are coming to EU, they want to fairly price in terms of the carbon emissions that are involved in the manufacture of those products. So it tries to align the pricing policies by imposing a carbon price on imported goods based on their carbon. So these are the two phase 1. What are the timelines is there? In the phase 2, there are certain timelines mentioned there. So based on the country of origin. So just I would like to give you example. For example, these are the top 10 global emitters here. China is there, US, EU, India. So if you see here, what was our previous, who are the legacy emitters here? So it is not India. It is not the developing world which has the legacy emitters in the global scenario. Because of our development stage, what we are in, we are naturally in our development stage. A stage comes when the carbon emission becomes a sort of compulsory in the development process. So these are the top 10 global emitters. 1916 in the black marking, and in the yellow marking it is the 2019 emissions. So China is number 1, United States second, EU is the 3rd, India 4th, Russian Federation, Japan, Iran, Indonesia, Republic of Korea. So a mix of developed and developing countries here. So the sectors which are coming under CVAMP, aluminium, cement, electricity, fertilizer, iron and steel. If you see India here, the aluminium component is less. So, but if you see the iron and steel component, it is about $2.5 billion. So this is the amount of exports that are being, if you may call, hit by these CVAMP regulations. The other cement, electricity, fertilizer, if you go, these are less. So, impact on Indian exporters. So, CVAP is widely seen as a move to safeguard EU's domestic businesses and raise resources through taxes to fund climate transition. So, it will make EU something about 500 to 800 billion US dollar. So, it is a revenue generation for EU as well. And the EU, what the EU wants to prevent is the, as earlier speaker have said, the reduce leakage, carbon leakage involved in the products that they import, in the products that they consume, from 13.3 to 5.2%. And if the full implementation is there, it will increase the cost of Indian products and reduce the, obviously it will reduce the competitiveness of Indian exports to the EU, because the cost involved, landing cost involved in the EU shores will increase. So basically the the sector which will be widely affected will be steel and aluminum, and the issues developing countries lacking clean technology access face disproportionate impact. So cement, steel, aluminum, fertilizers are the sectors which are going to be affected. So this is a shift. This is a shift in the burden away from developed. So as I've said earlier, the developed countries are the legacy emitters. So this is a way to shift their responsibility in a way, burden away from developed countries to the developing countries. So what we are seeing here is that with the implementation of the CVAM, the EU imports of CVAM products is likely to decrease by 14%, and out of these products constituted almost 3% of the total EU imports in 2019. So there will be a 0.4% decrease in total goods import, which will be, if we break it out, it will be 0.9% decrease in total exports for Russia, and for India it will be 0.3%. China, for it is 0.04% by 2030. So it is a exposure for high carbon intensity countries with low technology innovation. So these all factors is accounted in deciding the CVAM carbon trading prices. So Indian industries, notably steel and aluminum, could lose 1 to 2 billion USD, and India is ranked 8th largest exporter of iron and steel to the EU in 2019. So the zero duty advantage, the market access facility, the tariff reduction that we have got in the markets abroad, especially EU, the zero duty advantage, it will get nullified with the implementation of CVAM. The advantages we have got through free trade agreements, these will get nullified. So for the tariffs, import tariffs now on manufactured is 2.2%, and if the CVAM is implemented, it will go up to 20 to 35%. So it will be a quantum jump from 2.2% to almost 20 to 35%. It goes against the spirit of Paris Agreement, which recognizes, as I've said earlier, common but differentiated responsibilities, and it may likely lead to a domino effect in other countries. So UK will, I've seen the news, the UK is going to come up with their own legislation, the US is going to come with their own legislations. So it will be a sort of indirect taxation on the exporters of the developing world. So steel and cement sector will be the affected, most affected sectors in our country. So 27% of the Indian iron and steel aluminum exports, 8.2 as I've said earlier. So basically the iron ore concentrate, steel products, iron and steel, aluminum and aluminum products are going to be most likely hit. And the low effect will be there on the cement, fertilizer, hydrogen and electric energy, because we have lesser exports in the EU share of imports in these sectors. So what will be the effect? What will be the monetary effect? So there is a certain example. If an Australian steel exporter exports to EU, so per ton of carbon price will be there almost 66 USD. For EU-China, per ton of carbon pricing will be almost 93 USD. So carbon pricing, but for India, we have to calculate, there is non-availability of benchmark. So trading price in India will have to be determined by EU certified auditors on data provided by individual plants. What are the data involved? What are the energy conservation strategies? What are the fossil fuel taxes involved here? What are the renewable purchase obligations? So these are data which have to be provided to the EU certified auditors. So a plant-based, individual plant-based trading price is determined for Indian plants, which will be used while the imports of that plant takes place in EU. So there is an importance of decarbonization here. The importance of decarbonization technologies, adoption and funding is very important to adopt because carbon pricing depends on that. Basically, the smaller manufacturers will have greater impact. Why? Because the compliance costs, the data collection, the auditing, the certification, these are the costs involved for smaller. These are the burden which are involved for the smaller manufacturers. So they will find it more cumbersome, and the compliance cost of them will likely to increase. It will be easier for the larger manufacturers, but it will be comparatively difficult for smaller manufacturers. So also there is a figure, there will be a race to bottom, like UK, US, then it will have impact on the downstream industries, for example, automobile, because CVAM in a way protects the competitiveness of the EU manufacturers. So there will be a pressure on their governments to implement these CVM in other downstream industries like automobile or other engineering goods sector. So this may rise to a race to bottom phenomena in these developed countries. It is against the principle of tariff reduction and market access. So what the developing worlds have gained in the WTO agreements about the advantages which we have gained in terms of tariff reduction and market access. This will, the CVAM, the unilateral, the legislation of EU countries will have likely impact of nullifying our advantage in those countries going forward. So recently, I will just put up a case study. How these issues are very important. So this is an India EFTA Trade Economic Partnership Agreement, TEPA, which has been recently signed, is the latest in India's recent free trade agreements. The FTA has given impetus on deeper trade links with EFTA, European Free Trade Association countries, which are namely Switzerland, Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. So in this FTA, there has been this is the very first FTA in which the sustainable development chapter has been included. So what the sustainable development chapter is all about, I would like to give an overview to the assembled audience here. It talks about Rio Declaration on Environment and Development and the Agenda 21. The Johannesburg Declaration of Sustainable Development, the ILO Declaration of Fundamental Principles and Rights at Work, the Ministerial Declaration of Generating Full and Productive Employment and Decent Work for All, and its impact on sustainable development adopted by the United Nations Economic and Social Council of 2006, the ILO Declaration on Social Justice for a Fair Globalization. There should be a globalization, but that should be fair. The outcome document of the Human Conference on Sustainable Development of 2021, entitled The Future We Want, the UN 2030 Agenda for Social Development, and the multilateral environment, many multilateral agreements what we have signed, to which we are the parties. 2 minutes, sir. So there is, the chapter talks about the cooperation in exchanging information and experience in areas of mutual interest. So this free trade agreement has highlighted the issue of sustainable development, the labor issues, the environment concerns, the gender perspective to our development, the technological transfer. These have been highlighted. But the best part here is this chapter prevents parties to resort to dispute settlement mechanism. So no party can drag the other party to dispute settlement mechanism. The agreement talks about that we have obligations to multilateral agreements which we will comply to, but that should not be used as a disguised restriction on trade for protectionist trade measures. So these cannot be used as a disguised restriction. These environment and labor issues should not be used as a disguised restriction on trade for protectionist trade purposes. So this agreement makes it quite clear. And we have this with EU also, we have this FTA negotiations going on, and probably government must be very forward looking to include these chapters, these points in their agreement, in their free trade agreements with the EU as well. So it talks about the basic premise of the chapter is that environment and labor measures cannot be applied promoting arbitrary and unjustifiable discrimination between the parties as a disguised restriction on trade for protectionist trade measures. And another thing is that there is a provision of consultative mechanism and which is there for both the parties to bring these issues on the table and discuss it, rather than resorting to the dispute settlement where there is a retaliation or the tariff enhancement. So this is the way forward. This is the developing world's, in fact, the view, the premise that these environment and labor issues, they should not be used as a trade protectionist measures against the developing world. Thank you. With this presentation, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you.
A big round of applause, a big round of applause. Thank you very much. It's a lovely presentation and covering all issues, trade issues, and what is people are going to do. Really excellent one. Yeah.
Duties or taxes they will put in, I will say that I will add that in my supplies. Na? How would that benefit the world? Because end of the day, the cost will go up somewhere. Do you think so, or do you have a different views?
No, this, like for example, in the international market, the cost competitiveness is very important. The importers are very sensitive to the cost. So if they are importing steel products from India, the landing cost increases for them, the compliance cost increases for them. Let's say if they are importing from smaller manufacturers and the compliance cost is very high for them, and if they are importing from a bigger manufacturer, the compliance cost is less paperwork they have to do. So obviously they will select the exporter from the country from where the compliance cost involved is less. So it all depends on the cost of competitiveness of the landed goods. So if the cost increases for our products in let's say Europe or in other countries, so it will be difficult for us to be competitive in those developed countries market.
This is Devraj from Tata Steel. My question is that, like the way European countries are imposing CBAM on the imported goods to Europe from underdeveloped or developing nations. So are we Indian government, are we also thinking of imposing this kind of mechanism for our imports? Because quite a good amount of steel, stainless steel, various other things are imported in India from various developing or underdeveloped nations. And if we impose this kind of mechanism, okay, on our imports, hopefully it will increase the competitiveness of domestic industries, this kind of trade barriers, not trade barriers, this kind of imposition of some kind of carbon tax on our imports. So what is your view on that?
See, what India's principal point is, what we are, as I've said earlier, we have in the first slide as well, that we have common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities. We have reiterated this point every time. So we will not use these environment measures as a protectionist measures. If we start doing it, the world start doing it, all the gains that we have been given in the WTO, the tariff reduction that we have gained, the market access we have gained, this will all go for a toss. So we have a principal stand that we have common but differentiated responsibilities and respective. And every, like in the case study which we have discussed, the EAFTA discussed, this is the first trade agreement that we have brought these issues on the table, but we have taken a principal stand that these should not be subjected to dispute resolution. No parties can bring this to dispute resolution. Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Okay, the question is a little tweaked, I will say. Throughout the world, say Europe or US, they are exporting now. They are not manufacturing. And India, right, or China, we are the one who is exporting a lot. However, when this calculation happens, right, it is on production basis, okay? So India producing more is also emitting more, but India is producing for whom? India is also producing for the Europe and the US, correct? So why from India we are not propagating that idea, let this be on a consumption basis. The countries who are consuming more, right, they need to also pay the taxes. And if you see a company, if you compare a country to country on production basis and consumption basis, Europe, US, everybody is so high, and India, it's very down. So why we are not propagating this theory, because you are from the government and representing this, that why we are not going for a consumption based rather than a production based?
Yeah, very true. The consumption, per capita consumption is very high in developed countries, we all know that. But so that's why the common but differentiated responsibility is very important in this aspect. We are producing for the world, and we are developing stage of our economy. We are not that developed, our per capita consumption is less. So why we should be subjected to such type of CVAM? Why India or other developing countries should be subjected to such type of discriminatory policies? The issues are multilateral. In a way, they want to protect the competitiveness of their manufacturer as well. So I think there is a probability that it may lead to race to bottom, whether other sectors, other downstream sectors may also, their manufacturers also come on board this type of plans, and our manufacturers in those sectors are burdened with these issues.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll have question later on. A big round of applause for Mr. Nathan. May I now request our Mr. Sishantu Mukherjee, convener of the to honor Mr. Kanta, please. In the meantime, may I request to put on silence, please, your mobile phones or vibratory mode. Thank you very much, Mr. Sishantu Mukherjee and Mr. Vishnu Kanta. Now, I have a pleasure to call upon Dr. S. Ranganathan. He is a very well-known person, illustrated EV. We'll circulate that EV for him. He is a member and expert advisory committee industry, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. We'd like to hear from you. I know these sessions are so interesting. People can continue more than 30-40 minutes for a session, but because of we have to see all these, you may have your questions during lunch break or tea break. Thank you very much. And in the time when Mr. Ranganathan is preparing for his presentation, I once again like to remind you that second half this today is excellent. You also please look forward to it. Thank you very much. Mr. Ranganathan, your time.
Very good morning. I noticed something interesting here. Until now, all the lectures were oriented towards business mostly. And all of you are given at least 15 minutes time, and it has been made 10 minutes for me in the original schedule itself. I think it is conveying some message to me, right?
Message, not a message at all. You can take like this team, but because PR is so interesting, you just give an impact to the people that is.
I hope so. I hope you'll find it interesting and then impactful to some extent at least. And of course, I'm supposed to finish my lecture by this time, but I'm only starting it at 11:45. Let me try to make it as interesting as possible and try to give more time for discussion at the end of the lecture. So essentially, I am going to talk about a few issues of the impact on environment in the sector of ferroalloy manufacturing. So we have, when you come to ferroalloys, it can be high carbon or low carbon. In the case of low carbon alloys, again we have either aluminothermic reduction, or probably nowadays we go for decarbonization in the liquid state. When it comes to impact, we can say we are impacting the environment when you are sourcing materials from the nature, but we are not replacing it at the same pristine level or at the same quality or quantity, or we are adding to the nature, to our environment, which is not already there. So we are definitely having some impact on the environment due to our activities in these two fields. Okay. Essentially, the process is going to produce waste like slag, let us say, or gas, and suspended particulate matter, which is very, very important for us to take note of. Okay, I am going to discuss the impact on environment along the following lines about what happens when you do mining, either for ore or for coal, and what happens when we produce and consume energy, CO2 emission, particulate matter. I think I will omit aluminum for the time being because maybe I will be restricted by time constraint. But I am also going to focus certain other issues which are not getting enough attention from the manufacturers. For an example, process auxiliaries, how we use water, where we source where we source water from, and are we justified in consuming so much of water which we are projecting. There is actually no answer from any of the manufacturers when they come to us making presentation either for TAR or EC. I find there is a big gap here. We have to fill the gap. For the slag, we are still taking the slag for low end utilization. I am trying to illustrate at least one point here. Maybe a slag can be used for producing some other commodity which is also a major commodity in the market today. And we are paying less attention to indirect waste. For an example, e-waste. E-waste is a precious waste. We have to remember that. And probably it will become very scarce unless we learn how to recycle and reuse it. Okay, when you do the mining, we are taking materials out of the earth. Of course, we have no way of replacing it. That is the very purpose of removing it, to convert it into something which is useful for industrial and modern world. However, we can mitigate the impact of our actions by using the exhausted mines for alternative purposes and restore the vegetation and also restore the health of the soil, so that it becomes useful for the future generations. We don't leave a gap on the earth. Coming to the next point, we have taken the ore or coal out. One of our previous speakers are talking about the need for beneficiation at the mine site. I think it's a very good idea. If you take it away and then try to start beneficiating, we don't know what to do with the tailings. And that has become a big issue of debate in the past 1 or 2 years. We keep on asking the manufacturers to do something about the tailings, which does not distort the environment, but still no way out. Many of them have now come up with the plans for using the exhausted mines for filling again back with tailings. With a rider, maybe what we call tailings today may become a valuable ore tomorrow. We have to keep in mind. And also I find some of the governments are also taking cognizance of this, and they are telling the manufacturers, you can fill it back in the mines, but tomorrow if you want to mine it, again you have to pay a royalty for it. And of course, cement manufacture is a major sector where our tailings are used. And the road sector is another area which is coming up in a long way, because I was surprised to see a huge mountain of fly ash
has practically disappeared in one of the industries because the government insisted that fly ash should be used for road laying. So the contractors were very keen to take the fly ash away from the industries. In the case of power generation, particularly only for say thermal power generation, carbon dioxide emission is a very, very big issue. Whether we go for power generation or carbothermic reduction, this is going to be the biggest challenge that we are going to face in the years to come. Already it has been pointed out, the global warming has been about 1 degree in the past century. It may go about up to 2.5 or 3, and probably we will come to a point of no return when we reach that state, and we have to take action much, much before we reach even half of that. And the major challenge that for which we still don't have a viable solution is capture and utilization of CO2. Capture and utilization of CO2, please remember, we are not going to utilize that captured CO2 in such a way, again it is going to generate some more CO2. We have to capture it, and then probably we can come to some kind of carbon neutrality, but zero carbon is still a target which is far away for us. We can go for alternative power sources, solar, wind, etc. May be costly in the present context because fossil fuels are available, but may become viable when we have no alternatives. These will reduce the carbon dioxide emission and have a positive impact on the greenhouse gas emissions. But we still have challenges here. The solar and wind energy come at a cost of fabulous materials, which are special materials. There is a cost impact and also not abundantly available. So we have a process cost. Even the production of this material is going to have an impact on the environment. So recycling and sustainable processing in this sector is going to be vital for us for our survival. Good, I don't have to repeat that CO2 emission from the carbothermic reduction is the biggest challenge that we are facing. So we have to go towards, to begin with, carbon neutrality and probably zero carbon. As many speakers have pointed out, we are still not in a position to say we have got mature technologies to adopt. We are doing our best, our bit, let us say, through development of green belts and the other such initiatives. They have an effect, but they are not very significant. If we do the calculations, we will see that there is still a big gap between the CO2 that we emit and that what can be absorbed by the small efforts that we make. But these small efforts are also important for us because it is mitigating to some extent the effect of CO2 emissions. Good. Suspended particulate matter is a major issue for health, human health, animal health. But what we have not noticed is that, let us say we still follow the regulatory norms, 30 milligrams per cubic meter of stacked emission. We are not going to cross that. Many industries are able to follow that. In spite of that, if you go back and do a simple calculation, you will find that each industry is going to emit suspended particulate matter, that is PM10 and PM2.5, about 200 to 600 tons per annum. It is belching into the atmosphere, which is going to settle in the agriculture soil or probably other households in the vicinity of the industry. Though in spite of the fact that we are definitely following we are able to adhere to the regulatory norms. So this is a point that we should not miss. This is because the exit gas volume is really very high. As a result, we are going to emit a lot of particulate matter, which is going to be a major issue of concern. And so it is better for us to have a look at the soil health, monitor it, and also at the health of the vegetation around, and keep a watch on that. But at the same time, I want to say, probably not all the particulate matter which is being emitted is going to have an adverse effect. I sometimes feel maybe it will have a positive effect also on the agriculture sector, we have to study that. Water. Water is another issue for the impact on the environment. The reason is that water is precious. On occasions like what we face today, when the monsoon has failed last year and cities like Bangalore are reeling under terrible water scarcity, we get alerted, we sit up and try to take notice. But remember, water is always precious, particularly fresh water from the lakes, rivers, etc. But we use a lot of water. But what is missing is that we don't know how much of water we really need. What is going to be lost through evaporation? Nobody has got a model. And then we don't know how to reduce the heat loss through water evaporation. There are two aspects to that. If you know how to control your process and utilize the heat better inside the furnace, your productivity will increase, your specific power consumption will increase, and you also can have a control on the water loss. But this model is missing and we have not really paid any attention to that. And I would say that ferroalloy industry has not adopted automation to such a significant effect that we can control it in real time. Many of the occasions I find when I go as a consultant in the ferroalloy industry, I tell them that you are unnecessarily wasting energy, draining it by putting a switch at a specific point right from tap to tap. I think it's not necessary. You should have a graduated power supply in the furnace depending on the time history between the tap and tap. You have to give me at least 5 more minutes. Okay. So, another issue that we have to look at is source water from municipal sources, use STP water for cooling, which is not being so extensively adopted so far, though I find at least one city in probably some of the cities in India are selling this water and industries are using it regularly. And we should reduce sourcing water from natural sources and improve the rainwater harvesting. This is also getting very less attention. This is being done mostly for the sake of doing it to answer questions whether we are doing rainwater harvesting, but not much of model is being done and how it is going to replenish the water usage. Good. Let me almost come to the final part of my talk. Slag utilization, right now we are using it for cement manufacture or probably road laying, but we also can produce some valuable materials from the slag. I will just illustrate with an example. I have been trying to talk about this with industries because major industries are here from the ferroalloy sector. I hope you will try to encourage and take a cue from here and add or improve your profit baseline by adopting a proper utilization of slag. I am giving an example of ferrochrome slag. This is a very typical example where we are producing, let us say, 150 tons per day of ferrochrome. It contains about, the slag contains about 27% magnesium oxide, which will translate to about 29 tons of magnesium per day if you are able to recover magnesium. And many of you here will know that 80% of the magnesium is coming from China. And there are only a few countries in the world, maybe Turkey or Indonesia or a few countries where magnesium is produced and sold. India has not been still able to compete with China in the cost of production of magnesium, and so we are a total importer of the material in the world, though we have huge reserves. At one point of time, maybe in the 70s, we were self-sufficient at least. Today, we don't have any functioning, profitable industry producing magnesium. And if you recover magnesium from this slag, the value is going to be something like about 38 lakhs of worth of recovery per day. And is it possible really to produce magnesium from slag? Technological viability is very important because the theoretical possibility is well known. We already have a process for producing magnesium from other raw materials. This is called the electrothermal process. They produce magnesium from a slag which contains magnesium oxide, calcium oxide, aluminum oxide and silica.
that should immediately ring a bell in your minds. This is exactly the slag that we produce in ferrochrome production. All the components are there. They are producing magnesium elsewhere. Why can't you use the ferrochrome slag to produce magnesium? And the other process operates at 1550 degrees centigrade, and we tap the slag usually at 1600. And therefore, we have a knowledge and expertise for producing magnesium in India. We have been doing it in several laboratories. And we also have the expertise to produce the equipment which is required for producing magnesium from the slag. We can save on the cost of raw materials, and already we are wasting the heat in the slag by quenching it, or we are not recovering the heat, but also cost of energy is also saved. As a result, we are actually sitting on a very, very valuable waste which are not using appropriately. There is no need for us to hesitate, only the industries have to come forward and take the required steps to assemble the equipment and expertise to produce magnesium from the slag. Okay. Okay, so I am going to end it with greetings to all of you to have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ranganathan. The excellent presentation. As you see, you have given more than 15 minutes to you.
Thank you so much, sir.
May I now request Dr. A.K. Roy, our editorial board member, to honor Dr. Ranganathan, please. Can you read? Dr. Roy. A big round of applause for Dr. Ranganathan. Thank you very much, Dr. Ranganathan. Now I have pleasure of calling our sweet lady, young lady, Bipasa Ghosh, and she is the head of iron and manganese ore sales in Tata Steel, and she is the one who actually designed, if you see one of the team members, she is the one who designed the different. Big round of applause for Bipasa. And she will be also doing till Kaushik Sanyal Power presentation, Tata Power. Over to you, Bipasa. As we are starting 15 minutes late, we'll give you 15 minutes more. Or if you can make it, that's fine.
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So, industry veterans, stalwarts, my peers and colleagues. So after hearing a lot about what is lying ahead us in terms of CBAM and very important and intellectual questions like whether it should be production based or your consumption based, fact remains that the temperature is rising. We are going and buying ACs and again adding to the footprints. With this, the topic is deep introspection. Take a deep breath with me to get into a deep introspection mode. And be attentive to each and every line. It's not that I'm going to ask you a question, but you will find it interesting as I go forward. I will come back with the same question, set of questions back, okay, or the same lines. I must tell that. It's not true. We are good people. We all put our priorities first and are driven by KPIs. These KPIs are production, NR, cost, EBITDA, PAT. Environment will take care by itself. Collaboration has no meaning. I would be lying to you if I say we will be net zero. And we have a great future ahead. We will do wonders in smelting technology because existing furnaces are very, very energy intensive and we are purely thermal based. We will develop green alternatives to coke. Hydrogen has been tried only at a lab scale till date. We will be using renewable energy for ferroalloy making. Still a low usage of renewable energy sources as far as ferroalloy making is concerned. And thanks to people like me and you. Yes, we have challenges. We have a reporting mechanism. We have to control our cost. We don't have resources. We don't have the skill. We don't have the right technology in place. And then, where is environment? You all must know that we are very serious about net zero. There is no deeper penetration, you know. It's only we are talking and there are guidelines. Whether we like it or not, this is what is real. Okay? But having said all this, we believe, yes, we believe exactly the opposite. So now let's go the reverse way. This is what is real, whether we like it or not. There is something, there is some light in front of us. We all must know that we are really very serious about net zero, and that's why we are having this, you know, conference now. We are having something called Convention of Parties in Paris, and people are thoughtful, people are talking about it, people are spreading and, you know, taking measures. There are companies who have started taking measures. Yes, we have challenges. Who doesn't have? But we are trying to solve it through teamwork and through technologies. Again, thanks to people like me and you. So we have that brighter side. We will be using renewable energy for ferroalloy making. There is a target which we have taken of using non-fossil fuel energy by 80%. And as our VP said, by 2025, in collaboration with Tata Power, we are actually trying to run all our ferroalloy units in the solar power. We will develop green alternatives to coke. We are already piloting with biochar and also hydrogen, running the blast furnaces with hydrogen. We will do bonder and smelting technologies. Yes, we will. There are multiple preheaters, hot gas filtering, you know, the cleaning technology. There is a heat recovery system which is going. So there will be in-depth discussion in my next session that we have. And we do have a great future ahead. We will be net zero. Yes, India's target is to be the net zero by 2070. At Tata Steel, we have targeted at 2045. So we will. I'd be lying to you if I say collaboration has no meaning. Yes, here we are. We are collaborating. We have a platform here with all the ferroalloy producers, with all the OEM, with all the service providers, say like Tenova. We have DNB as our guide, and we have IBM in terms of technology. We have Metso, and who not? We have Sam Metallic, Shakumbri Group, Tata Power, and we will have many more going forward, whomsoever we need. Environment will take care of itself, but we are doing our bits by ensuring that environment takes care of by itself. We have to do our measure. We all put our priorities first, so in addition to your production cost, we have added environment sustainability KPI dashboard as well. So today we are measuring how much is the carbon emission, how much is your water footprinting we are leaving, how much is the energy efficiency, how are we doing the waste management. So it has all come into addition to it. Yes, we are good people. We are trying to get into a deeper penetration by talking to a lot of people in terms of afforestation. There are rules coming that every one tree you cut, you have to plant so many other trees. You cannot, okay? Having said so, in net summary, while these are all numbers, this is a busy slide I will not go through. In terms of steel industry, it is almost contributing to 10% of the global CO2 emission, and 5% of it comes from the major ferroalloy producers. So these are the two key points which is a takeaway from this slide, and we also must now consider that for every ton of ferroalloys produced, we are actually doing a 2 tons of carbon emission. So now is the time that now we have a platform. While everybody is taking a target, we as a ferroalloy producer must take a target that how much we are going to reduce and what should be the enablers to reduce it. There are scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emission. How we will do it? It's mostly by taking measures in the scope 1, which we will discuss in detail in the next session. And in terms of the scope 2, as you can see, the reductant and what we are trying to replace by the solar power, and then scope 3 in terms of the logistics what we are going to do. So this brings me to the end of my presentation, and this RRR is not Ronandram, Rindram, and there is another Telugu version of this name. This is not Rise, Roar, Revolt. This is not RJ Molly or your Ramacharan or Rama Rao. This is all about reduce, reuse, and recycle. This is what we need to do both at industrial level as well as at a personal level. Thank you so much. I hope I have taken you through the journey of your deep introspection. This presentation of mine was just a cue for the next presentation, which would be anchored by Mr. Shishendu Mukherjee. I would like the team to arrange for the table and the panel discussion. So now, having said so, that what is the reality, there is a panel discussion now. The panel discussion, on one side of the panel, we have the ferroalloy producers. We have Mr. Tushar Raut, Mr. Himanshu Goel joining, that what are the initiatives they are taking and what are the challenges that they are facing. This is on one side of the panel, that they are trying their bit, but there are challenges. On the other side, we have the OEM and the service provider. In OEM, there are some online people who would be joining. There would be Mr. Kaushik Sanal from Tata Power who would be joining online. Mr. Timo Jaime from Metso who would be joining online talking about smelting technology, as I informed. There is, in terms of your other people joining the session over here, along with Mr. Shishendu Mukherjee, as I said, 2 people from online and 2 people over here on the stage. Thank you everyone.
Will not leave you like that. You would like to felicitate you also. Please be there on the stage. Yeah. No. Who is here? May I request Mr. Jhanzo Chatterjee, Chief Advisor, to felicitate a young lady, who has always do this, please. In the meantime, I request Mr. Shishendu Mukherjee, convener of our seminar, and also Chief of Ferroalloy and Mineral Division of Tata Steel, to anchor the session of the eminent personalities. A big round of applause, ulto. Big round of applause for Vipasha and Mr. Chatterjee as well. And thank you very much, Vipasa, for everything, for designing in such a way. Getting the feedback, everybody is liking it. Thank you. A big round of applause for Vipasa, please. Thank you. Now, I have a pleasure to call upon Mr. Tushar Rawat on the stage, MD Sharp Ferro. I have pleasure to call Mr. Himanshu Goel, Director, Sham Ferroalloys, Mr. Arjun Paswan, Executive Director, and there will be presentation online by Timo Hiami from Finland, and I have the pleasure to call upon Mr. Praveen Chaturvedi. Mr. Praveen Chaturvedi, yes, I met him, he is here. Please come, he is from Tenova. He is a Senior VP and Head of Sales Upstream India Tenova. And I have a pleasure calling I call him Doctor, of course, or Dinesh Shastri, MD TMILL. Please, Mr. Please. Praveen Chaturvedi and Dr. Kaushik Sanil will be online actually. He is from Tata Power. In the meantime, we have a pleasure of having Professor Tushar Roy is here. May I request to tell a few words about the ferroalloys industries with the contribution he is and as well as Dr. M. N. Dastar in the meantime.
I have requested Pritish to give me an opportunity to tell what contribution made by Dr. Dastur in the field of ferroalloy. Actually, when Dr. Dastur came from MIT after getting his SCD degree under the great Chipman, he commenced the operation of our M. N. Dastur and Company. But the first job that Dr. Dastur got is we put up the first ferromanganese plant in Joda, which he did it as a turnkey contract, as a turnkey project, with LKM, with the penalty clause, and also with the bonus if he could have done earlier. So Dr. Dastur started his business as the M. N. Dastur and Company. He started the business with the first project called ferromanganese plant at Joda. In fact, I want to mention here that while he was trying to fructify the ferromanganese plant in Joda, he had the privilege to be attacked by Samtals. Because at that time, the people in Joda area, they thought that he had come here to only harm them. But when they are explained that no, it is for the good of them, they helped Dr. Dastur, and the first ferromanganese plant at Joda was built. And that too as a turnkey contract. And Dr. Dastur get it equipment from Norway, from LKM. That also was with the help of Norwegian consulate. So the first Gorapatton, the seed of the ferroalloy project came from Dr. Dastur. So I am from M. N. Dastur. I was their joint managing director at one point of time. But I must say that before we talk about ferroalloy in India, we must pay homage to our great Dr. M. N. Dastur. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for giving these snippets. Now it is over to Sushandu.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I can't see they're on the screen. Timo is connected. Hi, Timo. Good morning. Can you hear us? Hi, good morning, Timo. Can you hear us?
Good morning. Yes, we can hear. I can hear, yeah.
Okay, so
how about you?
I'm good. Hope you are doing good too.
Good.
So today we have assembled here towards discussion about carbon CO2 emissions and energy efficiency. So since you are the industry pioneers in terms of smelting technology, so you would like to initiate the discussions with you first. And just to give a big background, India, we have about close to 4 million tons of ferroalloys capacity, 4 million tons. But primarily it is all semi-open or semi-closed furnace. So we really do not have much closed furnaces like South Africa, Finland and other places. So obviously there are challenges around it in terms of energy consumptions, and we consume more power because the heat we generate out of ferroalloy is actually not being utilized. So that's one area as a country we are looking at it, the way the South Africans and other governments are sort of forcing everybody to go for a closed furnace. There's no option there. So similarly in India we are also discussing, in fact there are industry experts who have joined that session today. They would like to hear from you the advantages of going for a closed furnace and the challenges associated with you. So what do you, Timo?
there. So can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can, but not the content as of now.
Okay, okay, I'm sharing the wrong screen then. Can we, how about this one then? Yes. How about now?
Yeah, you're online. We can see the screen.
Okay, you can see the screen. All right. So, thank you for having me online. I unfortunately cannot get there today. It was short notice here and at these other booked meetings here. But nice to see you. My name is Timo Haimi. I'm a senior sales manager in the smelting business line here in the Metso. And I'm talking about the Metso's Outotec ferroalloys and DRI smelting. Because you know, Metso, Outotec, we were getting together a couple of years ago, and this is the result. At least in Finland, we are like a big company and working globally in 50 countries and many different nationalities and a lot of R&D testing laboratory capabilities everywhere. And then we have these many business areas where we are. And these conference, of course, we are talking about the metals, well, minerals as well, but anyway, in metals processing. And this is largely Outotec legacy technology, what we are talking about. And inside the smelting business line, we have these many different smelting solutions. And if you're talking about the ferroalloys, then we have the, for example, steel belt sintering, which is we have been using for chromite pelletizing in many countries, and also some manganese, niobium, some smaller things have been done with this. Then the submerged arc furnace combined with the preheating kiln. This is the most interesting for the ferroalloys. It's a closed smelting furnace with the Söderberg electrodes and the preheating kiln connected, utilizing our carbon monoxide gas what we are producing in the smelter. So this is the key to our ferroalloy technology. Then the DC furnace is also there, which is suitable for fines, dust, something much more a smaller scale, a bit more difficult materials that you have limitations how much you can recycle to the steel belt sintering and to the submerged arc furnace without causing too much troubles there. Then of course the gas cleaning, water venturi scrubbers, these are very efficient and very well working solution. When you also add the CO gas filter in there, then you have very pure CO gas what you can use in all burners at the plant area. Or you can even make electricity with the excess CO gas. 16-line furnaces, this is the new thing what we are doing here, and it's mainly directed to the DRI smelting for the iron and steel business. And the metals, what we have been busy with is that the copper, nickel, ferrochrome, zinc, PGMs. These we have been doing most of the projects, and also world's biggest titanium oxide slag ilmenite smelting plants in Saudi Arabia. Those are also working there, and yeah, some smaller. And now I said the iron has not been our main product; it has been a byproduct. But in the future, we see that there's this DRI smelting our smelting solutions can offer to this DRI world and this decarbonization of iron and steel business. So therefore, this is now one of the interest areas. And what we do in Metso and with the Outotec technology, typical projects, we are doing a lot of studies, usually for the customers who are not completely sure what kind of project they would need to have. They have this kind of iron or chromite or some mine, what to do with this, or they have some residues. So study is a good way to start, combined with the test work with the Metso's R&D centers, and we also utilize for the project basic engineering and then the APS project itself. But the ferrochrome process itself, we have the pelletizing plant here based on the steel belt sintering, so grinding, filtering, mixing, pelletizing, sintering. Okay, we call it sintering, but it's pelletizing. Then the preheating and smelting and the gas cleaning and utilize the CO gas. Very effective, having like 3,000 tons of kilowatt hours per ton of metal or less even, and very high availability and high productivity because it's automated process, and low operational cost with the SPS plant, and making money for the customers. And usually we are talking about 150,000 tons production for one furnace. So 2 furnace, one sintering plant, we are talking about 300,000 tons of ferrochrome with the one plant. And the history, it is coming from when we were part of Outokumpu. There was pelletizing, sintering shaft furnace. That was done, preheating, and then it went to agglomeration and pre-reduction, and then also briquetting and pre-reduction rotary kiln. But that pre-reduction is difficult. So after previous 30 years, we have been using that steel belt sintering and the smelter route. And the reason for that is that we all know that the solid carbon, that's working well for the reduction. So, and it's still that. Nowadays you have the bioreductants, which we and the customers, we are testing, and it's sometimes doing well, sometimes not so well. Natural gas, yeah, test work, what you can do with that. Mainly iron is reduced with the hydrogen, but it's a carbon anyway, which is reducing the chromium oxide. Hydrogen, not working very well according to our experiences. It's not enough to reduce the chromium. So these are the tests what we have been done. So the chromite reduction, we see that the focus on the carbon and the bioreductants and focus to the carbon yield, that maximize the carbon yield. Of course, continue developing the natural gas or hydrogen things within our R&D centers and with the customers. So continuing, but we see that it's limited potential there. Better to maybe to maximize the performance of the existing process. And how to do it is that do the agglomeration first. Don't put the fines into the smelter. And this is very important when you go bigger smelters, and especially closed smelters, then you cannot put the fines there too much. It's blocking the furnace and causing problems. So have these good quality pellets with the Metso steel belt sintering, and then do the preheating with the preheating kiln with the picture here. There's the upper part of the preheating kiln and the closed feeding system. There's the burner for the preheating kiln, and which is using the carbon monoxide gas, what's coming out of the furnace. And using the CO gas, you are maximizing the carbon yield, so you are not just wasting the CO and flaring it out. So you are utilizing the carbon which you're putting into the process. And yeah, closed melting furnace is very good. You don't have air increase, air is not burning your carbon. Preheating kiln has been drying the feed and removing the volatiles, so this moisture is not eating out your carbon in the smelter. So the result is that we are always close to 100% carbon efficiency. Of course, how much carbon you're using per ton of metal it's depending what kind of feed you are putting, what kind of chromite and what kind of metal you are producing, but we always see very high efficiencies with this process. So that's the secret for that ferroalloy carbon efficiency. And one slide about the DRI smelting, what we have been doing is, like I said, utilizing our smelting technology to work with the blast furnace grade iron ore. You know that the DRI usually globally it's it's needing very high quality iron ore with a very low amount of gangue in the iron ore, and that's not happening globally. In Sweden and some other places where they have high quality, they can use that DR and the EF route. But otherwise, you need to take care of the slag. So after DR plant, our extraction plant, use our smelting furnaces to take out that excess slag without iron losses, and then produce like a cement production quality slag here. Then you have a slag-free iron, molten iron for the further processing into steel. And this is what we are busy with the many customers and projects. So thank you. That was my short presentation into this topic.
So thanks, Timo. So couple of points or questions, I would not say, suggestions. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear, yes.
So one of the, Indian ferroalloy industry is more of a fragmented industry. It's not one unit having 500,000 or 400,000 capacity, unlike South Africa. So when we sort of intend to utilize this technology for the better good in terms of efficiency and power consumption reduction, I think capital investment plays a big role for that.
Yeah.
So what is the approach Metso could take if you have to, build something for India, not building from something for China or South Africa? Do you have some thought around it? What is that you can do?
Yeah, we have smaller capacity as well. For example, the steel belt sintering plant, what we are using with the 300,000 tons of capacity, the steel belt sintering, it's a 700,000 tons. But we also have about 600, 500, 350,000 tons. So smaller capacity, smaller units. Of course, we need to check that what's the chromite, what kind of retention times you need, and what temperatures, or what is actually the furnace size. But anyway, you have smaller units. And then the smelters, you can have only one smelter. And we also have the smaller smelters. But why we are doing these big plants? It's because the customers see the benefits. Like the productivity is so high that per employee, this automated process, there's not so many people working here. And also that, for example, this from Mintal, from China, from Inner Mongolia and Baotou. And so this customer, they were making this 300,000 tons plants, and they were shutting down, I think, was it 12 smaller furnaces. And that was very good for the productivity, for the emissions, I mean, the energy emissions and the material. So it was doing a good impact for the area. And then nowadays, in many places, we are talking about the social acceptance. Like even in China, you have this limitation that you cannot flare the CO gas up on top of the furnace. So you need to utilize the CO gas. So this is the way, use it in your own process. Reduce the electricity consumption, reduce the carbon consumption. But yeah, there are possibilities, and then it's about the customers to evaluate that what makes sense and what not. But we see that these units are getting bigger and bigger in many places.
Okay. So the last point for me is that when you talked about that hydrogen could be a possible solutions for an iron reduction, not for chrome. So can you just throw some light? Why are you not remaining positive on chrome?
Yeah, that's a long discussion, and we could go very detailed and would have a good discussions there. But the driving potential with the chromium and the hydrogen, it's if you look at the Ellingham diagram, it looks challenging there. The reduction potential is not that good, and then it would also mean that because the potential is not so good, then in that reduction with the hydrogen, even if you have enough time, temperature and pressure to make it happen, then those reaction products, like which is the water, it's again decreasing the reduction potential, hydrogen to water ratio. So you would need to all the time remove the water away and supply fresh hydrogen into the system. So we see that it's much more challenging. And then, okay, we have been doing some tests because we have the Circoret test work center in Frankfurt in Germany. Circoret is known for the iron ore. We've been trying to do some chromite there. But the first part is the preheating, which is the like oxidating. Well, that we can do by making the pellets. After that, the pellet is oxidated, and then do that reduction. But it's not showing good results. And also the customers are giving same kind of comments with the shaft-based processes. But yeah, it would be nice to develop this one. You know, in India you have a lot of rotary kilns for the DRI production, and so yeah, these are natural gas and the hydrogen need to continue development and need to continue the test work and find out the way to.
Thank you, Timo. I think it's wonderful to connect you once again, and you have some thought around the technological development and steel belt to, I think it's, hydrogen still seems quite interesting for us because maybe our contribution to the global emission is less because our production volume is less in terms of ferroalloys, but the power consumed in ferroalloys is much more than steel production. So therefore there's a need to look at it differently, maybe going forward next 5-10 years, that how can you really reduce energy for smelting purpose. Thank you, Timo, once again for joining us, and so all the best. Thank you, Timo. Just to connect. So next presenter is Mr. Kaushik Shannal from Tata Power. He is the national head for renewables. So I will give a little brief about him once he is sort of connected. But did you understand something from Timo? That's the bigger point. Huh? Hi, good afternoon, Kaushik. Can you hear us? Kaushik, good afternoon. Can you hear us?
I think, Sishindu, you can carry on with other presentation in case there is a connectivity problem. Yeah, you can coordinate like this on the panel, you can discuss.
So then we'll start with Mr. Dinesh Sastry. Primarily because it's not because he's my earlier boss, but because we have discussed a lot about ferroalloys manufacturing and CBM and other issues. But I think logistics in India and the globe has actually can create a lot of difference as we move forward towards zero CO2 emission, reduction in CO2 emission. As VPRM said in the morning, that even in Tata Steel point of view, little steps we are trying to do, that how do you move raw material, less of road, more of rail, or I would say through sea or ocean. So that is what we are trying to do. But is there a structured approach in India's journey towards reduce carbon emission from a logistics point of view? Because everybody knows that if you have to produce 130 million tons of steel, probably we are moving some 520 million tons of raw material while you deal with that. So it's a lot of, and India is going to be 300 million tons. That means almost 1200 tons of raw material and finished goods has to be moved. It's a big effort, and the government of India also has taken some targets in terms of reduction of diesel locomotives. They also want to get away with the diesel locomotives permanently in next couple of years' time. Even the original target was 2024, but I was told that by 2025-26, they also want to come out of this diesel locomotive. So everything on the wheel is on electricity, so not on any other options as of now. So with this expertise of many years in ferroalloys and also related businesses, so I would welcome Mr. Dinesh Shastri to share his thought.
This one? Hello, yeah. No, I don't have a presentation. More like representation, yeah. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, SteelTech, for inviting me to be a part of this deliberations, more for sentimental reasons, I believe. Mr. Chatterjee and we go a long time back. Yes, as Srishandu said, I have been connected with ferroalloy industry in the beginning, and I've moved on a little bit. But before I start talking about the subject of which has been assigned to me, as I stand here in front of all of you, I want to express that I feel very humbled that I'm sitting in I'm taking a dais position in an assembly which has industry stalwarts from Tata Steel, Dastur, and everybody else, particularly Mr. Rao, for example, the person who selected me in Tata Steel in 1989. I hope he's not regretting his decision. So it's a very humbling experience. My senior colleagues Sudhar and people from Dastur, sir, you had guided me also long time back, Mr. Chatterjee, Mr. Sarkar, everybody else. So at the same time, it gives me a great pleasure and a little bit of pride that one of my one-time protege is actually chairing the session where I'm a member. So well done, Shishandu, you've done good for yourself and also for the industry. So, with that background, when I try to address the question about, the green supply chain, particularly for the ferroalloy industry, I try to put my thoughts in a PowerPoint presentation, and I soon realized that I didn't have any points, and certainly no power in my points to put it in a presentation. So what I thought is, let us try to think aloud together and see whether, when we talk about, logistics, and we first talk about, industries like steel, cement, and when we talk power, we talk about thermal coal. So these are the areas where the focus of the logistics industry has so far been on how to try and look at the reduction of the scope 3 logistics. And even this concept of scope 3 logistics is a relatively new phenomenon. We talk about steel industry, we talk about cement, about the scope 3 logistics percentage of carbon footprint ranges from high single digit to low teens. So the focus of the industry so far had been always to look at, even in Tata Steel, we first started with scope 1. Then we looked at scope 2, and now in the last few years, we are actively looking at scope 3. And luckily or otherwise, I'm happy to be a part of that journey. So the traditional concept suggests that every time we move from truck to train, we reduce half our cup. And every time we move from a rake to a waterborne traveling transport mechanism, we further reduce half. So the focus in any large industry or large bulk movement has always been to see that we reduce the truck dependency to the maximum. But we all know that the first mile and the last mile will continue to remain trucks. So therefore, how to improve the trucks, how to make the trucks more eco-friendly, these are how to make the same truck carry more with better axle loads. So these are the things which we all know and have been practicing for last many years. So when in Tata Steel, for example, the one area that we are looking at is also the movement of material by rakes. One interesting or other development that has taken place in the last 15-20 years is the government of India and the Indian Railways has encouraged private participation in railways. So there's not just big companies, but even a new segment of people have emerged, in which TMIL is one of them, is what we call the logistics service providers. So we have taken licenses for running these trains, and there are certain commercial arrangements also. But the whole purpose is essentially to look at A, reliability, and B, look at a reduction of the carbon footprints. So today, I'm very proudly saying that today I think we are the largest bulk private sector rail player in the country. Today we have about 60 odd rakes running, and about by the end of 2 years we'll be having about 92 odd rakes running. We are very proud to be pioneering that, because every time we move anything by rake, we are essentially reducing the carbon footprints by eliminating or reducing the truck movements. Similarly, when we talk about sea, there are a lot of developments which are happening on the marine side, because marine transportation is by far the most environmental friendly transportation. But still, at the end of the day, you are running on an engine. Whether you run bunker oils, whether you run LNG, you are still depending on fossil fuels. So there has been some developments in biogas and other areas, but still there is a long time. So why I am trying to say this history? I am not trying to say this history to be, to be despondent. Also, when just taking a thing aside, all over the world, people are taking targets for net zero. India as a country has taken the target of 2070, Tata Group is 2045. Some other companies are earlier than that. But again, if you look at this, taking a target by itself is sort of pushing the decision to a further date. So instead of taking a target, the way I would like to talk about this is that, we all talked about the 3 Rs. I'm not talking about the Natu one, thank you. But we all talk about reduce, recycle, what is the third one? Reduce. But the fourth one, I would like to add an R to that, offset. What is happening is that we have to, the concept of green logistics or green supply chain is actually a misnomer. Logistics by definition is gray. We can talk about less gray, we can talk about more green. So till the day we actually go back to that old generation when we talked about moving material on horsepower or by wind power, we will continue to use some sort of energy which will be not necessarily natural. So therefore, the concept that I would like to propagate from the logistics supply side is, instead of trying to focus only on a so-called green supply chain, which is actually chimera, it's a mirage, we need to focus on what is more called a responsible supply chain. And a responsible supply chain, and I'm so far not touched ferroalloy industry, if you might have said. The problem is that in ferroalloy industry, we are talking very small quantities, both on the inbound and on the outbound side. So the critical mass does not appear. So it will take a lot of time before we really look at such solutions. So I'll come back to the supply chain, responsible supply chain, and then I'll try to address the ferroalloy through the limited knowledge that I have. So when I would like to draw the attention of the assembly here that instead of talking just green, let us go back to the old concept of sustainability. Sustainability essentially talks about 17 goals. And when we look at those 17 goals, we realize that not all are only concerned with green. We are talking about the triple bottom line, which we are talking about the planet, people, and profits. So there are lots of ideas about people and lots of ideas apart from carbon reduction in planets, which are nowadays being addressed by most of the logistics providers, including us, through our CSR contributions. So as a ferroalloy or a steel industry, when you are looking at
evaluating your supply chain partners, I would strongly urge you to evaluate them also through their contributions as a part of a responsible supply chain, not only on cost. It's clear that cost will continue to remain an important parameter, but if there is a choice at the same cost, if there are people who are more responsible, then that may be an idea that you are in a way promoting green supply chain. And I'll do a little bit of marketing about an idea called GreenCo. CII has come up with the GreenCo Foundation, which was essentially started in 2013 by President Kalam, and it was sponsored primarily in the initial stages by Godrej. So I happen to be the chair of the Calcutta Forum of GreenCo. There, one of the initiatives that GreenCo does is to provide GreenCo certificates. This is recognized quite a few states, pollution control in Goa, in Rajasthan, they all recognize this and give certain incentives. We are trying to do something similar for West Bengal as well. So through this forum, I'll request companies to look at strengthening the supply chain from a responsibility perspective. And about 100% or about 10% of the total GreenCo certification comes from a responsible supply chain. And that is an area which I am trying to produce. If you think that my points are garbled, I admit, because this is the subject is such that I do not have any concrete points. So we are trying to take different examples from different areas and trying to make up a story. So now I come to the Ferola story, that the critical mass is so low that, really there are not many we don't export our chrome ore or manganese alloys in bulk. We don't even buy them in bulk in terms of 20,000 or 40,000, 50,000 parcels. Our parcels are a few thousand, 510. But there is scope in terms of the way we transport them. With the dedicated freight corridors that have come in and with a concept called baby containers, there are double-decker containers as they are also called. So on this double-decker containers, when we are able to carry more load. So there's one area I would like people to consider. We are not into that service, but there are quite a few logistics providers who are into that service. So containers obviously provide the solution of safety. It's relatively more secure than the other ways of transportation, but that's one way we can look at it. And the second that we can look at it for our inbound raw materials, which is slightly in larger quantities. We try to do it on rakes, but sometimes we also do it on trucks. There is an untapped thing which the government of India is also trying to push very hard, that is the inland waterways. In steel, we have managed to do a few trial runs in inland waterway, in Tata Steel as well as some other places. And one initiative that is the National Waterway 5, for example, which is the Orissa belt. That is one area which is really in the limelight for discussion purpose, not necessarily for action purpose yet. And that is an area we are all looking at trying to develop so that we could possibly use this as a supply chain for our raw material coming from that part of the world. So if you heard me so far, you must have been thinking that this is a person who is very confused and has got no clarity. क्या बोल रहा है समझ नहीं आ रहा है. And that is unfortunately the problem of supply chain in cellular industry. जो मैं हूँ, जो मैं दिख रहा हूँ, वही problem है यहाँ पे. We do have a situation where we all are happy to talk about 2070, 2045, but what we are not talking about is what is tomorrow. So I will again say that as we have taken very small immediate targets, one of the most important targets apart from the 3 R's is, as I said, offset. And we as a responsible supply chain are looking at offsetting our impact by various initiatives, not just the typical of afforestation, water conservation, etc. But one area where we are very proud of is mangrove reclamation in Sundarbans. We are in this part of the world, and quite recently we faced the fury of the Amphan. Now the Amphan fury was much less than what it could have been because of the mangroves. But it was much worse because the mangroves were destroyed. So if that, for example, if we are able to develop such things, we are also doing benefit to the planet, and also through that overall, the disruptions of Amphan, for example, were bad for everybody. So it's a very, conceptually it is totally unrelated to ferroalloys, totally unrelated to transportation or logistics. But overall, these are the small points which when they add up, they will be able to convey and make the difference. So essentially that's all I have to say today. Unfortunately, I am not an expert on environment, I am not an expert on logistics, not an expert on ferroalloys. But sometimes common sense gives us some insights, and I thought I'll share with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your insight. I think in some ways, ferroalloys industries are also situated, who are closer to Vizag, they also don't pollute much, because they don't transport much in a way. Both inbound and outbound are very seamlessly connected. But yes, majorly our main focus always remains on smelting power. But point is that if you even try to reduce 5-10 kilowatt hour per ton of whatever we produce, because India we are producing 4 million tons. Even 4 million tons into 10, it's huge. 40 million megawatt hour that you can save. So with your insights on what is to be done next, I think we are also geared up to sort of do that little bit for the country, and that's what we discussed with Timo, that as a country we are still focused more on low cost capex, but when you actually invest, then also you get rewards maybe in next 5 to 10 years time. So that as a country also need to look at, both from a logistics point of view, also from a consumption point of view, both. Thank you, sir, once again. Is Kosi connected? Sorry? So what to do? So that's renewable is quite important for all of us, I think. So now we'd like to have a presentations from Tenova, and Mr. Chaturvedi is also quite familiar face in steel tech also. Couple of times he has presented. So a little brief about Mr. Chaturvedi. So he is currently working as VP and head sales upstream India metal division Tenova. He is associated with iron and steel industry for more than 3 decades. Prior joining to Tenova Group, he has served L&T, Ispat Industries and Jindal Said Oman. And he is also Indian Association professional bodies. He is connected with Indian Institute of Metals, lifetime member. And also he is a member of Task Force for Green Hydrogen Energy Efficiency, Ministry of Steel. So with this, I would request Praveen to share his thought on today's topic. Thank you, Praveen.
And he is also associated with Steel Tech when the seminar started by Dr. Amit Chatterjee.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Sen. Yeah,
big round of applause for Kovi.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mukherjee. And Madam Bipasha, yeah, you have given a very nice arrangement and all those things. And we have kept the same format what you have made it, green. So that gives a very good impression. Yeah, regarding the pyrometallurgy, I am going to take a few slides. And basically, we are from Tenova. I'm showing this slide. I'll take a few seconds just to make you aware that Tenova, we are part of Techint Group, in which you can see the two companies, Tenaris and Ternium. So Tenaris and Ternium, they are also steel manufacturers just like Tata Steel. And more importantly, this year, a couple of days ago, we have been declared the sustainability champion by World Steel Association. And congratulations to even Tata Steel also. And we are proud to be associated with the same group in which Tata Steel is also associated, and both the sister companies, Tenaris and Ternium, they are featuring. So whatever products and development technology we come into the market, first of all, we try and test at our own factory, our own installation, and then we come into the market. So this gives an upper edge in terms of technology and sustainability. So considering the sustainability as we are now heading towards, yeah, we say ourselves as a sustainable solution provider in the field of metal and mining industries. Mining, we have a group called Techcraft and Dalcor, which are associated with us, and we are present globally. And that is why a word has been given, sustainability. It's a new mantra through which we can, yes, whatever product we are developing, at least we will know that it is Tenova is in between the sustainability. So this is a new name has been given to us. Yeah, we are into the business for furnaces more than 1 century, and we have supplied 2,700 furnaces. So here I'm considering the pyromet. Basically, we are into the AC and DC furnaces. Regarding DC furnaces, Mr. Mukherjee may remember that they wanted to produce the low silica, high carbon ferroalloys. I mean, that is the ferrochrome, based on Indian chrome ore. In which there was an exercise to do the DC furnaces. We suggested that rather than converting AC to DC, we can start with the brush arc mode, the same AC furnaces, but that is the one thing which we can look into. So we are into the field of ferroalloys, we are into the platinum group metal, PGM, base metal and slag cleaning and alloy refining, and of course we are into the auxiliary units like metal handling and dedusting system. So in the ferroalloys, we are into the field of ferrochrome. Of course, we all know ferromanganese, silicomanganese, ferronickel, ferroiridium, but more importantly nowadays ferrosilicon and silicon metal is now also gaining a lot of momentum in Indian context. Apart from that, one portfolio is about the base metal. We are into the platinum, copper, nickel and platinum slag cleaning. Illuminite, of course, that is also very important nowadays. People are coming up for the pigment making, paint pigment, and auto catalytic recycling also. We are also into the iron making. Through submerged our furnace, we can make also the pig iron, that we call it green pig iron, and we are also into the mineral wool. Now coming to the ferroalloys, yes, we have supplied ferrochrome furnaces. We can see some of the references listed here in South Africa. Basically, Pyromet is a company which located in the center of excellence is located in Johannesburg, South Africa, and we have supplied the bigger furnaces also, 66 MVA furnaces for ferrochrome. What is the more important thing which we are, since we are talking about the sustainability, the more important is the iron ore, not iron ore, sorry, the iron ore only. So most of the good quality of ore is not available. So what is available, we have to just proceed with that one. Reductant, as we were discussing about the hydrogen or solid carbon. Hydrogen, one challenge with hydrogen is that it is endothermic reaction. Just I want to just clarify. So reduction of the chrome ore, that is oxide of the chrome, is not possible because it's an endothermic reaction, number one, and also it needs high pressure and temperature. So that is also not available. Just like you might have heard that in blast furnaces, we are trying to put the Dr. Kundi is not there, but he may explain much. What are the challenges with putting the hydrogen into the blast furnace? Because it's endothermic and it needs a high pressure and temperature, just like pressure cooker, to react, to reduce the iron, so to reduce the oxide. So that is the challenge, of course. But yeah, solid carbon is the better way, whether it is wood chip or coke or whatever is available, carbon. So that is more important, availability and its cost. Those are the things which we have to look into. Power and of course the environment, effluent, and these are all the factors if we design the furnaces. More importantly, when we design furnace, rather than giving only equipment, we start with the first principle, electrical energy, input raw material, output will be the metal, heat losses. So combining all those things, then we basically design the furnace. Now, since we all know that submerged furnace is quite mature technology, more importantly, we have to focus where we can reduce it. One is iron ore feed, where Ms. Bipasha has already explained about some pictures she has given about the multiple preheater. In a previous discussion, we have heard of the single preheater, that is a single vessel preheater. In our case, we are multiple preheater, which gives better exposure to the energy in terms of the heating of the iron ore, not iron ore, sorry, it's feeding of the ore only. Then dry cleaning system, very important because it reduces the moisture. As Mr. Sanjay Agrawal was mentioning in the previous slide that yes, previous discussion that yes, if we can able to reduce the moisture, then it will be very much beneficial. And then dry granulation, because the dry granulation and dry glass cleaning helps us to reduce the water consumption. That is also very important. So coming to the dry scupper system, that is one thing. Multiple preheater, in which you can see there are various vessels in which the material gets preheated, not with the thermal energy, but with the chemical energy. Because these are the closed furnaces. Mr. Mukherjee was mentioning that yes, there are some challenges that in India we don't have much of the closed furnaces, but closed furnaces help us to recover the CO, carbon monoxide, and that can be used even for the cogeneration, power generation, or it can be used even the preheating the metallics, which are going to the furnace. And then the same thing can also be applied for the DC furnaces as a preheater. Aim is to reduce the power consumption. If we reduce the power consumption, definitely we are going to save to some extent the carbon footprint. And more importantly, these gases can also be used for generating the steam, and that steam can also be used for various purposes. Now, considering the preheater, see, whatever we are showing, this is not in theory or in books, already implemented. You can see here, this is one plant in Kazakh, Kazakhstan, in which that is 81 MVA ferrochrome furnace. We are able to heat the charge up to 550 to 600, which help us to reduce the electrical energy consumption. And you can see in the below table, the power consumption, they are able to save a lot. And yes, that also helps to increase the furnace efficiency. Yeah, the furnace is quite big, yeah, 81. And see, these type of furnaces, for the closed furnaces and to recover the CO and all, preheating, the furnace size, apart from the closed furnace, one other important thing is that what Mr. Sanjay Agrawal was mentioning, that we should go for a bigger furnaces rather than a small one. So that really help us to extract the energy and to do it efficiently. This is hot gas filtering. Definitely it helps us to reduce the water consumption. And of course, more important, the factor is to reduce the emission. And you can see how this hot gas filtering system is getting installed. Basically, it reduces the risk of the CO gas explosion. That is also one of the benefit if we see. And water requirement is getting reduced. Fine ore preheating, yes, these are applicable for the DC furnaces. And for ferrochrome, as we were discussing about the ferrochrome furnace for the DC furnaces for the ferrochrome making, such type of furnaces also help us if we do the iron ore preheating, fine ore preheating, 70% of reduction in the electrical energy is observed. So that is also beneficial. Then these are some static blue, I'll just skip it. Gas clean, already we have discussed. CO2 emission, these are the gas system. Another important factor is the slag granulation, dry type. There are wet and dry. Of course, wet is well known, but dry, that also helps to reduce the water consumption. So these are the dry type of slag granulation system, heat recovery, in which we can extract the energy and we can generate the steam, that is heat recovery system. This helps us to reduce the 10% of the CO2 footprint. Of course, these are the electrode, I'll skip. PGM, we are also into the PGM, but I will just try to skip. There is one video on the scrap, on the multiple preheater, 2 minutes. If you can give me 2 minutes, I'll just play the video on that one. We are into the mineral wool, I'll just skip those things. And these are the automation system. Autophon is a system for the furnace controller. These are the digital tools which helps us to optimize the energy, whatever are going inside it. And so robotics and all those things are already there. Another important thing is the same furnace can also be used as a replacement to the blast furnace. We can make the pig iron out of it. These are called open slag bath furnaces. They work in the brush arc mode. So generally, they are used for the PGM commodity. I'll just play a video, maybe 1 minute video, for giving an impression about what is multiple preheater. Basically, whatever the off gases are coming, it is coming from the closed furnace, yes. The CO, we are using as a post converter, converting CO into CO2, and that gives an thermal energy, more energy, to preheat the metallics. moisture, eliminates the moisture. Yes, decomposes the carbonate. Yeah, thank you.
So thanks, Praveen. I think 2-3 points from my side, maybe 1 or 2 maybe from audience also. See, once we do a multiple preheater against the conventional single preheater, so there should be some additional power savings. So can you still quantify that? How much kilowatt hour or somebody can save with that?
Correct. This the live example, this tabulation I am just going to share because this is now in public domain. That really help us to know that how much energy we are going to save. That is the main intention. So we are considering here the 66 MVA with no preheater versus with preheater. So you can see the in energy terms it is 3,650, and whereas while using our preheater system they are achieving 3,100. So there is a saving of 500 kilowatt hour of the electrical energy saving. So that is one per ton. And volatile metal from the reduction, yes, it is less, approximately 20% improving the CO content of the furnace gas generation. And these are they have what we have been quantified. So energy terms, if you see, yes, 500 kilowatt hour is the saving. That
So you also need to have that sufficient CO concentration once you want to reduce.
If it is a closed furnace, then CO we will be able to recover. That is closed as well as the furnace should be a relatively big one, more than 45 MVA, something like that. Is an idea.
If we Indian context, generally furnaces are 9, 16.5, 22.5, not really big ones. So what is your suggestion in these cases? Can still people go for
No, it is not economical putting in the such system. Just like heat recovery in small furnaces is not economical. The moment it is big, we can recover it. So that is why we say that 45 MVA plus, just like we are having in Sale Chandrapur, that is 45 MVA for the manganese ore. They are generating the CO, but that CO they are using for the power generation. So other option is to, and they are also exploring to use that CO, whatever CO capture, what we were discussing, not only CO capture, more importantly is to CO capture and utilize. So nowadays there are many companies, those who will take the CO from us and or CO2 from us, and they will add hydrogen and makes the methanol, ethanol for fuel. So that is what this Chandrapur in Nagpur they are trying to do for creating the fuel. So that is the other way of utilization, carbon capture and utilization.
So I think for everybody who is inside this room, I was just doing a calculations that if you are producing 100,000 tons of ferroalloys, and if you have that benefit of 500, it is 30 crores per annum you can save. So even if you are investing for 200, 300 crores, you will recover that investment in 10 years time. So that's the potential is available. Huh?
Yeah, that is true.
Thank you. Okay. Any other points from anyone?
But again, those furnaces are open furnaces, semi-open furnaces.
If it is closed, then only will. Otherwise, it is getting converted into CO.
Okay.
That is the only challenge. Otherwise, it can be done. Battery of all the small furnaces and one location we can do it.
Okay.
It is
So maybe can you have one preheater for all raw material and then feed it across the furnaces?
That can be, but we need some CO. Either if it is we are getting from LD gas, so that also we need some CO because we don't want to create CO.
Hello.
Let's say one is big furnace.
Definitely.
The others are smaller ones. So you do it once
This should be an engineering problem. How to get the from a small one and amalgamate them in one year. This is an engineering problem. But this should be solved. Is it not?
Definitely.
If it is a small unit, there are lots of small units, and you can put them together. That is the engineering problem.
No, that can be addressed. That can be addressed. I agree.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else, anyone?
My name is A.K. Sarkar. I have a question to Tenova Technologies because, you see, iron making is posing a challenge for going on a sustainable basis because we are mainly dependent on coke, which is the main source of emission. What is Tenova's view on this on the long term? How is hydrogen placed in the reduction of iron ore in the blast furnace?
Actually, sir, we are coming out with a technology to alternate way of making the hot metal without using blast furnace. And that is OSBF, open slag bath furnace, in which we use the same BF grade pellet, put the DRI. In DRI, we will use whether it is coke oven gas or whether it is syn gas, which is available at the moment in the market, or hydrogen ready. These are all hydrogen ready. Because hydrogen directly we cannot put in blast furnace, but hydrogen we can put in DRI, which is now everybody is now moving ahead. And that DRI, high carbon DRI, we can melt it and make into the pig iron. So this is what is one way.
But you see, presently India is also making blast furnace to the tune of 5,500 cubic meter inner volume and huge production of iron. But what you are telling is on a small scale basis. So what is the solution to this long-term problem of iron making in India?
No, I'm talking not small business. I'm talking of 2.5 million ton capacity. The DRI what we make is 2.5, and across the globe they are making higher capacity 2.5 million ton, and 3 million ton still they are making in this fashion. So wherever we are putting our DRI, it is also clubbed as an alternate route. The OSBF, the DRI melter, because we produce high carbon DRI, around 4% carbon DRI. If we melt it and remove the impurities, and we get the pig iron. And already our 500,000 DRI, 500,000 pig iron plant is already, 2 plants are in operation, one in Canada, Quebec, Patmin, and another one is BlackRock in Canada, in Cuba, in US. So these are the 2 plants already operating. And you know, in Tata Steel, Imuddin, the same concept is already was explored and now is under consideration to melt the DRI from our DRI, HOL energy around DRI, and use the OSBF, that is the DRI melter, that is square type. Hatch is supplying the rectangular furnace in which they will make the pig iron, and downstream BOF will be retained. So we are talking about 3 million capacity. So this is very much possible.
But what is the economics?
Economics, it is better than using through the blast furnace route. Because here we are not using coke, we are not using any sulfur. The sulfur is also, desulfurization station is also not required. Carbon footprint is drastically getting reduced. So, and downstream we are retaining the same converter. Those who are having the converters, LT converters, those things can be retained. No need of putting electric arc furnace, DRI electric arc furnace. It is better to make the DRI melt in the OSBF, and that DRI not necessarily the DR grade pellet with the blast furnace grade pellet, having the high gang. That gang can be removed in the open slag bath furnace. And what we are generally we propose is we can also supply rectangular furnace, DRI melter, or it can be the circular one. But circular one is much more better what we feel, because all the ferroalloys maker, they know that how to operate this submerged arc furnace, but that works not in submerged arc mode, it works in brush arc mode. We have to only melt it. We have not to do the smelting of that DRI. And it is very much possible and is getting implemented across the globe.
What is the fuel required there?
Fuel, that is what I am saying. In the DRI, either you can use natural gas, if it is not available, coke oven gas, which is already available. In China, they are doing it. There are 2 plants already we have installed, one in HBIS, another one is in Bao Steel, 1 million ton DRI plant. They are using coke oven gas, because coke oven gas also contains hydrogen. And generally in our DRI plant, that is steel, this iron making part, of course, this is not part of the submerged arc furnace, means ferroalloys. But yes, the same equipment, we are able to melt the DRI. So as a reducing gas, we need the gas which should have carbon monoxide or hydrogen. We generally use hydrogen as a reducing media. So coke oven gas, if we are getting, we are most happy. Syn gas, coal gasification. Now government of India is also promoting the coal gasification. If we convert to begin with, okay, hydrogen is a distant dream, but immediately we can start with syn gas, coal to gas, or whatever CBM is available, cold bed methane, that is available in Durgapur area. That also if we are getting in an economical way, or if the government is able to provide, or else we can use the natural gas or syn gas or coke oven gas, whatever is available, we can use, because those contains the CO and H2, which are helpful for the reduction of iron ore and into the metallics. So that can be thought of.
So thank you, Praveen, for explaining the intricacies of steel making, iron making also. Thank you once again, Praveen.
Thank you, sir.
So we'll move to Mr. Himanshu Goel now. Mr. Goel, the Himanshu ji has, I don't know how many years of experience, but I know him for last 25 years almost. So Sam Ferro is also journey from 15 MBA to 165 MBA. Now they are one of the largest in India. And he always dreams like Sanjay ji. What can we do better tomorrow? So what to Himanshu ji?
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, Sham Ferro is basically engaged in the production of manganese alloys only. We have number of small furnaces, and as everybody is telling that in small furnace, recovering the flue gases is a challenge. Sir, our small endeavor is to try to convert one of our furnaces to a closed furnace, though we are not inclined to go for bigger furnace because of the many other challenges like capital cost and the market. Ferroalloy is already a oversupplied market. So instead of putting up new furnaces or bigger furnaces, we are endeavoring to convert one of our existing furnace to a closed furnace, and we are in the process of identifying. We have already identified a vendor to supply the gas cleaning system where we will be able to recover whatever small quantity CO we can get, which can be used for preheating. And the other aspect is we are working towards renewable energy. We already have heard that Tata Steel has already entered into agreement with Tata Power to run all the ferroalloys on renewable power. So we are in talk with the renewable power companies to invest 26% in special purpose company to become a captive user, and we already have got commercial viable rates from those company with a hybrid project, wind as well as solar, with a 70% CUF. As you know, Vizag has a higher power tariff from the grid. So if we explore this kind of power, it may be financially viable also. So this is our one or two of our endeavor to restrict carbon emissions and do a bit from our side. Thank you.
No, so I think you are doing much more. You are only talking about converting one semi-closed to closed. But I think from a sinter, using up sinters in your ferromanganese, silicomanganese, you are doing a lot of work, obviously to reduce energy consumption. In a way, it is only helping to reduce CO2. So you can also touch upon a couple of points that you are doing, trying at least in your different units.
Certainly, sir. Sinter is, everybody knows, if we beneficate and pre-reduce the inputs, then it can lead to lower power consumption in the furnace, thereby reducing the CO2 gases. So we are already working on production of sinters, and going forward, we are in the process of receiving an environmental clearance to put up a 500 TPD sinter plant. So if, once we receive the environmental clearance, then we will go ahead with this plant.
Thank you, Himanshu ji. So now over to Tushar. Tushar is also from, he has also started, I think it's like little bit startup, from high carbon to medium carbon. So you can also share.
Thank you, sir. Just allowing me to sit with all the, one of the majors in ferroalloys producing, with sharing this dais with Himanshu ji also, with you, with all you guys. Definitely, I came in this conference with one point that how this green ferroalloy is going to be there in coming future. And finally, it's a eye opener for me that not in coming time it's gonna be green. The ferroalloy is not going to be green anything. But yes, we are also doing we were producing high carbon ferroalloys, and we shifted to medium carbon ferroalloys in 2021, and using it's not working. Hello. Yeah. So it's somehow like it's gonna be helping reducing our carbon in the atmosphere. And what else? I mean, so we were sitting over here listening to every single experienced guy, and I think so we are not doing anything special at this point of time. But yes, after listening all the points from the industry giants and all the technological guys, we are also planning to somehow to improve our production into those way which they have advised. Thank you. I mean.
So I think ferroalloys will never be green. But your effort towards reducing power consumption would actually make it green. So I think a lot of us are working towards that, and our initiative from a Tata Steel point of view is green energy is obviously not to use fossil fuel. But I think bigger endeavor is that how do you consume less power? Okay, I think that's an industry point of view. I would say, in summary, I can say that you use more sinter, more agglomerates, and that's what if you look at South Africa as a country, if they are producing close to 3 million tons of ferrochrome today, I think their power consumption would be at least 10% lower than India, minimum 10%, because first of all it is 100% through pellets, and then also the preheaters, whether it is vertical preheaters, multiple or single, but they are also utilizing the technology. So at some point in time, as we grow out to 300 million tons, I think newer capacities which are coming up into India, then we also need to think alike. We cannot be simply thinking that 9 MBA, 16 MBA would help the country. Forget about your own personal commitment. If you have to look at the country, when we say that you're Atmanirbhar is not only everything to produce in India. We also need to take care of the environment, and that's what we started in the morning. There's a sustainable development. So how do you make sure that whatever we produce, whatever you consume, we are consuming less? So I think what Bipasha's point was reduce, recycle, reuse is also in the direction only that how can you consume more? How can you consume less? So I think thanks everyone for sharing his thought. Is this gentleman connected? Oh, Saurabh Kundu. So I had something for the green power. I just wanted to give a statistics to everybody since we are not getting, because this is something going forward. So from an energy focus point of view, in India in FY23, we have installed capacities of 400 gigawatt, okay? And fossil fuel is about 62%, and renewables about 38%. But government of India's plan is to cap fossil fuel around that number. But you will be surprised to know that India's overall capacity at the end of FY30 would be about 800 gigawatt. So India will grow double from 400 to 800, while the fossil fuel power would remain same. That means we are going to add close to 500 gigawatt of renewables in next 10 years time. So that's the overall government of India's agenda, both in terms of solar. I would say solar today is about 75 gigawatt. India's potential of solar is about 800 gigawatt. India's potential, that's the Solar Energy Association has calculated. And next best is also obviously wind power. So in wind power today we are around 40, 45. It has a potential to go to 300. So overall, I think renewables we have to play a big role as we move forward because we'll consume more power. So that's an update I wanted to give since we could not get Mr. Sannal on the call. Now, before we close, last but not the least, we have Saurabh with us. Saurabh is I would say, expert in many fields because he has worked in R&D for almost 22 years. So he has actually an inside view of steel making, ferroalloy making, and how do you make everything sustainable. Without any further delay, I would request Saurabh to share his thought. Over to you, Saurabh.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. My apologies for not being there in person. I wanted, but last moment there was something. So, and I'm missing the exciting discussion. I think Mr. Chaturvedi has also had this discussion, and thank you for taking me. I'm sharing my presentation. Just give me one second. I hope my presentation is visible now.
Yes, Saurabh, carry on.
Okay. So I understand that I'm probably standing between the lunch and you now, but so I'll be quick, and I'll try to discuss a few things about the sustainable product and process development strategy for ferroalloy industry. Many of these things have already been discussed here, as I can understand, and I'm listening to you all for last half an hour. But nevertheless, I'll try to put some points. So what is happening here? You see, what are the sustainable characteristics of sustainable products? Okay, if you see that there probably are 6 characteristics. Number 1, the reduction of GHG emission during production and use, that is obviously comes as first. Lesser use of natural resources. Already this is being told. I think Shishandu was already telling this. Water and minerals in particular. Process must be long lasting. That means it should be independent of supplier, lower sensitivity towards raw material quality. Okay, our processes cannot be such that, if you change your raw material from one to the other and the production process hampers. The reasonable use of land, that is very much important for us, must bring overall benefit to the society and stakeholders during the life cycle of the product. And last but not the least, the economical viability. Because unless the business is running, none of these things will remain important. Just a glimpse at the project Alingana that Tata Group has taken up, and this will give you an overall idea how a sustainability or how the sustainable process can be developed within an organization. So here in this particular project, we talk about driving net zero at different times in time period in different companies of Tata Group. But that is not all. Okay, the GHG is not all, but we also need to talk about the pioneering the circularity. I think that is what also being discussed currently in this particular seminar as well. Tata Steel and Tata has taken, of course, different measures in it. Now, in the circularity, there is renewable power, which is being discussed, and I'll also discuss this a little bit because it is very important for ferroalloys. Freshwater consumption and replenishing freshwater is also going to be important, which is there in the Alingana product. The third point is about biodiversity. Okay, because when we talk about ferroalloy production, then we of course talk about mining, and of course that actually talks about creating or conserving the biodiversity. So this particular project has taken up different measures in conserving the biodiversity and nature-based solution, promoting the nature-based solutions, which will also be helpful for the future. Now, if you see that how the things are happening over a different time frame in terms of the sustainability, we can say that up to 2020 things were pretty much at a steady state. Okay, we were interested about operational efficiency, profitability, safety, and community services that most of the companies were doing. Right now, we are at a transition state. Okay. During the transition state, what are happening? And this is very important for all of us to note what are happening and how we are reacting towards those. New regulations and carbon pricing are coming up, and CBAM is already there and knocking our door. Strategy and target for growth and GHG reduction are happening together. India has to grow, but at the same time, you have to do GHG reduction. So both are coming together. Strategy for protection of community, we cannot ignore it and we have to do that. Strict reporting of sustainability parameters, because many of the companies have been asked to come up with their business responsibility and sustainability reporting, which is BRSR. And from this year, the BRSR core has also been introduced. That means the number has to be vetted or it has to go through a reasonable assurance. Evolution of new supply chain is going to come up, okay, because we have to gradually replace the fossil fuel and adopt other, reductant and other fuels. So in the future, what will happen? The fundamental changes in the process technology will take place gradually. Strict monitoring of GHG target will be there, and there will be penalty probably coming up after the carbon market is introduced by Indian government. Demand growth for low emission products will increase. Okay, so if you probably can produce ferrochrome or ferromanganese at a carbon which is lower than your competitors, it may so happen that you will be given a premium. Financial and technical decision would be taken up based on the carbon intensity, which has not been the case earlier, but it is going to be the case in the next decade or so. Just an example, but this is an example from the steel industry, but I'll draw that analogy and draw that particular point to ferroalloys industry as well. So if you see that why in the European industry the emissions are lower, okay, and if you see this chart over here in the left hand top corner, during the steel making, the raw material that you use, coke or iron ore, those are of higher quality in Europe. How it is so? Coke ash, for instance, is much lower in EU. Okay, alumina in sinter, pellet, and lump ore are much lower. In India, it is higher. Scrap charges that we do in India, it is lower. In Europe, it is higher because of the availability and cost of the scrap. The process itself actually relies on higher iron making. That means the hot metal is to steel ratio in Indian companies would be greater than 1. In case of Europe, it will be around 0.9. The electricity footprint, okay, because that is very important. It is as much important also for ferroalloy industry. In India, although we are actually going very aggressively towards renewable, and I think we'll have much more renewable by 2030 with us. But as of now, in India, the electricity footprint is very high. It is about, I'm sorry, it is not ton, but it is 1.1 kg per kilowatt hour. And in Europe, it is about 0.4. So these are certain things that we have to live with. Okay. So what is the remedy? Okay. None of those things, the scrap charge, iron ore quality, coke ash, or the electricity footprint is not in our hand. So what we need to do to reduce the CO2 footprint in the industry that we are in right now, we have to do certain fundamental changes in technology as and when it comes. But more importantly, we have to make sure how we are using our products. Okay, and how do we recycle certain things that we are having as byproduct of our production process. So we'll discuss that a little bit more in detail. Just another example from the steel industry, from the iron ore beneficiation. If you see right now, the beneficiation is generally we go for wet beneficiation, and the iron ore having iron, which is anywhere between 50-55, we actually discard. Okay, and we use high quality. What will happen in future? And by the way, when you do that, the CO2 footprint is higher, the consumption of water is also higher. But in the future, probably the way we beneficiate is going to change. We probably will go for more and more dry beneficiation, and the slime rejects, which are the rejects right now, will have to be used as prime, because more and more low quality material needs to be there in the process, and that will help us not only to reduce cost, but it will also help us in reducing the footprint overall. Now, come to this, and this is what will be the center point of my discussion today. Okay, so probably it is not only GHG, it is not only water, it is not only electricity, but it is as a whole we need to think, and this particular thinking is known as life cycle thinking. So it is manufacturing is not the only important factor here, but we need to understand from the source where from we actually get the raw material, how the raw material is processed, then the manufacturing happens, then transportation of the goods happen, retail or use, how that happens is also important, disposal and recycling. So if we think in the whole value chain, then what will happen, even if we are actually having certain points which are negative in our production process because of different limitations, we may actually benefit from these other 6-7 processes that is there in the life cycle thinking. So we'll discuss about it. So how to do this, how to approach the problem. The approach of the problem is to go for a life cycle analysis. Okay, so there are different type of life cycle analysis. There are environmental life cycle analysis, technical life cycle analysis, social and life cycle analysis for costing. So we will mostly, concentrate on environmental life cycle analysis today because that is more relevant. Now, before we go for life cycle analysis, we need to understand what is the boundary within which we must do that life cycle analysis. So there is a concept of cradle to gate. What happens there? That your material comes, extraction happens in mining, it comes to your factory, manufacturing happens, and then you send the product. Okay. After the product goes out of your boundary, then it is not considered in that particular case, and that is called, cradle to gate. There is also a gate to gate process, but what we need to do probably for particularly for ferroalloys is to go for a cradle to grave. That means where we are starting from the material extraction to the end of life where the material is used. We have to also be very careful about these two processes. One is reuse, another one is recycle. Okay, I think in Tata Steel, of course, for the steel for the production of steel, we are using cradle to gate, but for the purpose of ferroalloy industry, the important would be to come from cradle to grave. Now, what does it give you? Okay, what does this different life cycle analysis give you? There are different, impact categories. Okay, that is how the process will throw at you. What it will give you? It will give you the GWP or global warming potential, which is the carbon CO2 equivalent that you emit, the eutrophication potential, the primary energy demand, blue water consumption, and acidification potential. Apart from that, it can also give ozone depletion, ionizing radiation, particulate matter, and respiratory inorganic emissions, human toxicity, and abiotic depletion potential. In general, we confine to the first 5 depending on the requirement. Of course, depending on different industry, other 5 or any of the other 5 can also be taken up. So how it can be used and where this concept can be used? It can be used for product development. Okay, how it is possible? That in case we have a product life cycle analysis for different products, for instance, in Tata Steel, you have done it for Happiness and other, steel building structures. This has got a better acceptability to the construction people. In marketing and sales, the EPD or Environment Product Declaration or green certificates, other green certificates, that means Green Pro could be another one, is actually quite important, and that actually separates you from your competitors. The hotspot analysis, which I'll mention during my presentation for ferroalloys industry as well, will tell you exactly where the problem lies in your process and where you need to make improvement in order to improve the overall processes. Now, of course, product transparency and disclosures is another one. If you have life cycle analysis done, you have enough data to write or produce a better BRSR, CBAM, IDDI, or other, reports that all the companies are making nowadays. So it starts, you need not read this chart. This is just for shown just for illustration purposes. So how to do LCA study? First of all, we collect data. Okay. In the data, there is basically input and output. So what all your inputs and what all your outputs are being taken, and their characteristics is noted. In the second process, what we do is called life cycle inventory analysis. That means basically these inputs are noted down. We actually go through what all processes it has gone through. That means, let us say you are doing mining, that means there is extraction which has happened or beneficiation which has happened. Then we also have to note different outputs. For instance, what is the product, the co-product, water effluent, air emission, and solid waste. How this data is actually is basically put in a software. Before putting it in a software, what we do validation of data through mass balance and energy balance. So that process already exists, and most of us who are actually running those plants, we know about this. By the way, there are also third-party help which can be provided in order to go through these LCA processes and get the data done, get the data generated. After the data is generated, there are standard software in which you need to put. Of course, in Tata Steel we do it on our own because we have a team. But as I said, there are help required. This is available, and we can actually get this analysis done through different models like LCA, GABI, and other software. What we get at the end of the day, as I was telling you, we get the global warming potential or CO2e. We get the acidification potential, which is nothing but the SO2 equivalent. We get the eutrophication potential, which is nothing but the phosphate equivalent, primary energy demand, which is very important for ferroalloy industry, and the blue water consumption, which is also, by the way, very important for ferroalloys industry. Now, what are a bit of a result? Let us discuss. So this is the overall process. I think you all quite familiar with this, so I'll not go into details of those. Here you see what is there, okay? And there is a comparison between the way we do things in Tata Steel, because I took the liberty of putting certain numbers, of course the average numbers, as you can understand, how we actually compared with the rest of India, and how we are compared, let us say, an European company, okay? So if you see that GWP or the carbon emission is about 4.6, if it is here, then in India it is about 8. In Europe, in Outokumpu, it is about 1.75. By the way, I'll also come to the reasons behind this and how we can tackle this more. And the other points are also written over here. So what happens? It gives you, first of all, a very good comparison between your plant and the other plant which is there, and you exactly know where you need to focus for the next improvement cycle or next improvement project that you're going to take in your company. Now, this is a little deep down. I think this was already been discussed. You see, in case of ferroalloy industry, most of this emission is coming from the electricity. Okay, and electricity is used is of course high because you are using so much arc furnaces. There are others, and if you see the others, then the process direct emission is the second one, which is actually emitting about 20 to 30%. And what is process direct emission, by the way? It is the emission occurring from all carbon sources due to the carbonization process. Okay. Then the fuel upstream is also important, which is about 8 to 10%. It is the emission that occurs during the coke making process. For instance, if you're using something, some fuel within the process, then how it is made is also important, and it is taken care of in the life cycle analysis. So if you go now, why in Europe the emission is so low, okay, and why it is in India it is higher. So it is given very quickly. You need not go through all the numbers, but you see here the emission of electricity due to electricity in Europe is actually so low. It is in something around 34 grams. Okay, in India, if you go by the LCF process, it is about 1.1 kg. So that is the difference, and that is why there is a problem, and that's why more and more renewable is important for ferroalloy industry. But you can tell, okay, so why are you telling all this? Because we know about green energy, and green energy is coming. As and when it comes, we'll adopt. Let me give another example that as of now, wherever you are, being there, how we can make improvement in these numbers. So, by the way, before you go there, this is another kind of comparison between two plants, and this is about the blue water consumption. Okay, so this can also be done, and you can actually talk about which plant is having higher processed water and where exactly you need to focus. Now, here is the example that I was trying to bring. Okay, You see how the LCA is done. Okay, in the first one, let me go through the process first. So you all know that there are different raw materials. It goes to the furnace, and there are products. Okay, now there are two products basically. Okay, one is, let us say, there is ferrochrome, but we should not forget about the slag, because unfortunately in ferrochrome process, and this is just an example in as in the ferroalloy industry, this slag, the production of slag is probably more than, it is 1.1 to 1.5 times than the product that you actually produce. And you imagine the whole of CO2 that you produce is actually going to the product, but the CO2 or the energy that you have spent has also been spent to produce the slag. Now in LCA, the provision is there to take care or to bifurcate the CO2 between the product and the slag. Now how to do that? Okay, there is a process called system expansion, which is adopted in LCA, which allows you to make sure that the some of the CO2 that has been produced during the some of the CO2 that has been produced is actually sent to the slag itself. When you can do that? You can only do that when you actually use your slag for another process where you end up in getting another product. So that means if the slag which is produced through the ferromanganese or ferrochrome production, or for that matter, even the low quality raw material, even the overburden that you have during the production of different beneficiation of different raw material, if it is used for different purposes, then it actually saves the CO2. And this saving in carbon in LCA process through system expansion can be adopted. In fact, you will be surprised to know that currently we are actually employing this process in steel business to send certain products to Europe. And when it does, then the number that you are getting today, which is about 4.6, as I was saying, and maybe in some of the production process it is much higher than that, will actually come down. And this is a perfectly legitimate process which we must all adopt. And this indicates, the LCA process indicates that your slag should be used in a more efficient manner. So we come to the next.
Saurabh,
this is
just
yes.
a quick time check.
Yes.
If you can finish in next couple of minutes. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm just finishing up.
Yeah.
So the slag which is there, so this can be used, for instance, the ferrochrome slag in India, in Tata Steel, we are using for road making. The different manganese, of course, low quality manganese ore can be used for production of different products, which is manganese carbonate, sulfate crystals, intercalating manganese metals, and those products actually having much less carbon footprint than what we have in our original product. The extraction of or the value extraction from chromite overburden is also important. If you do that, you not only save on money, but you are also going to save in terms of CO2. So in summary, the reduction in specific energy consumption and reduction in GHG emission would be the focus in the ferroalloys production. The assessment tools like LCA could be a good way for baselining all environmental impact indicators. A shift towards making more value-added products from the waste or from the waste of the raw material would be of very good use. New technology needs to be tried, as we were discussing, and that will give us the industry a impetus for the growth. And the sustainability will be in focus in the future, and we all need to make sure that the slag and the flue gases must be used in a more efficient manner. Thank you. That's all I had to say. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Saurabh, for such a elaborate presentations. I think LCA was obviously a eye opener for everyone, I guess. But I would see that we could have more time for you because the flow was perfect. So thank you once again, Saurabh, from all of us. And we missed you today. Thank you, Saurabh, once again.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Shishandu, just to give an honor to these people, may request to hear this side. May request Shishandu to you put a, to Mr. Praveen Chaturvedi. That part on yes. Champero. Thank you. Kindly, Mr. Tushar Rawat's Sharfero. And our own man, Dr. Shastri. Yeah. Thank you very much. Please stand, have a photograph, please, here. Please have a photo. Where is the photographer? Yeah. Please come in the front. Photo session. Please come, sir. Thank you very much, everybody. And before we end for lunch, there's a very pleasant task to do. We want to honor Mr. V.S. Rao. So I request Mr. Sundaramam to honor him with a uttariya and a memento, please. So you can be here, sir. You need not to come. Yeah. A big round of applause. A big round of applause, please. A big round of applause. And yeah, Dinesh, you come here. Mr. Chatterjee, Janta Chatterjee, please. You're the one. You're the guy. Vishnuda, Ashan. Mr. Sarkar also. Please. Yeah, Ernin, photo. Thank you. And one more request, I'll request Mr. Sundaramam. You know, this, without Mr. Jayanta Chatterjee, this ferroalloys industry, seminar, what you're doing, it is for him only with his efforts. And I'll like to request you to felicitate him for his contribution. This is this one. With this. Yes. A big round of applause for John Tuda, popularly known as JKC. So, Vishnu Darshan. He is the pillar of our strength in any time of the day and night. Pritish, what is happening? Pritish, what is this? He'll talk to Jayanto. He'll talk to Arnav, talk to maybe Vishnuda. Thank you very much. And we'd like to respect Mrs. Rao. May I request Meeta to just felicitate with the Vittorio to Mrs. Rao. Please come here, ma'am. Please. We are come here, ma'am, both of you. We are so honored that Madam Rao or Mr. Rao, they have been coming to a seminar, except one year missed because of COVID. He was willing to come. His sons from USA, they said that please don't go. So they have always been there. It's a really pleasure. A big round of applause. A big round of applause. Their presence itself is a great one. If you'd like to say a few words, sir, you can.
That was 1 year. Actually, we attend a lot of seminars, but I found this seminar was different. That is the reason whenever I had a call or I came to know that this is being organized, we made it a point to come here. This time also, although being because of the age and all, still not feeling so this thing, but when Mr. J.K. Chatterjee announced that this is the thing you have to come, that is 6 months back he told me. Before I went to US, he said one is there, you have to come. So that's why I made all the inclination to come here. And I'm still, I'm happy that I have come here. because the subjects being discussed, the way it is being discussed is a little different and quite changed. So I should congratulate the organizers for arranging this kind of a thing, because it is not a usual way of conducting. This is the way you are utilizing the time. You are not wasting any time in formalities, going ahead with the subject, and also the people who are coming and giving the information or lecture they are giving on the subjects, they are up to the point, which I like it very much. I think I'll be very, because I was also connected with ferroalloy industry, and I was first EIC of the FAMD, Ferroalloys and Minerals Division, which is looking after all these aspects. So I was very happy that I am present here and going through all these things. Although I'm 86 years old, but I still feel that I can still go through all this. That's the thing.
Thank you very much, sir. Then we'll be breaking for lunch, and please be there in the second half, because to be mindful as you'll interact with Sham Majumdar, a mind reader, a mentalist and illusionist. So after the lunch, please be here. Thank you very much. We now break for lunch. Is my mobile somewhere? I just get the mobile. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let's break for lunch. Now it is 2 o'clock. So we'll be assembling here at definitely at 3. We are going half an hour late. 2:45. Let us take 2:45. Let's assemble here. Thank you very much.